How to unlock your creativity and generate brilliant ideas on demand. Introduction. Have you ever felt stuck, staring at a blank screen, a new project, or a problem with no solution, concluding that you're simply not one of the creative types? Have you watched others produce incredible work seemingly from nowhere and wondered about the secret they possess? If so, you have been laboring under a powerful illusion. It's one of the most pervasive fictions in our culture, the myth of the inspired genius, the solitary artist, the chosen few who are struck by bolts of divine inspiration. This story paints creativity as an exclusive gift, a rare talent bestowed upon a lucky minority. It leaves the rest of us feeling deficient or broken when we can't simply will brilliance into being. Here is the fundamental truth, the bedrock on which this entire book is built. Creativity is not an inborn trait. It is not a mystical force. It is a practice. And more than that, it is a muscle. Like any other muscle, it can be developed through exercise, grown stronger with consistency, and honed into a reliable tool. You don't need a special anointing to be creative. You need a system. You need to know the right exercises. This book is that system. It is your practical training manual, a complete workout regimen for your creative mind. Together, we will demolish the myths that have constrained you. We will equip you with the tools, strategies, and daily habits to weave creativity into the fabric of your life. By the time you finish, you will know how to summon ideas, not by chance or by magic, but by design. This journey isn't about becoming a celebrated artist overnight. It's about becoming a more resourceful, innovative, and capable version of yourself, ready to tackle challenges, launch projects, and view your world with a renewed sense of possibility. It's time to activate the potential that has always been within you. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Tearing down the wall. The myths that are blocking you. Before we can build our creative confidence, we must first demolish what's already standing in its way. In this case, the demolition site is your mind, and it's occupied by a few stubborn foundational beliefs. These are the myths of creativity we've been conditioned to accept as gospel. They are so deeply rooted in our consciousness that we mistake them for reality. They limit our vision, obstruct our progress, and can stop us before we even start. In this chapter, we have one job: to take a wrecking ball to those myths. We will expose them as falsehoods, shatter them, and clear the debris for good. Only on that cleared ground can we begin to construct a dependable creative practice. So, let's start with the biggest and most foundational myth of all. The most insidious of these is a 4-word jail sentence we give ourselves. I'm not a creative person. It feels so absolute, so unchangeable. We treat it as a core identity marker, like our nationality or date of birth. We use it to protect ourselves from the risk of trying and as a convenient explanation for our perceived failures. But it is a complete fabrication, and I can prove it. Go back in your memory to childhood. Picture a 5-year-old. Now try to find a 5-year-old who isn't a fountain of creativity. You can't. To a child, a cardboard box is a spaceship, a stick is a sorcerer's staff, a blanket draped over chairs is a dragon's lair. Children are masters of invention, creating intricate games, vivid characters, and entire worlds from scratch. They are imagination engines, constantly connecting disparate ideas to build something new. You were that child, I was that child. We all entered this world with that vibrant creative engine running at full throttle. So what happened? Life happened, school happened, adulthood happened. We are slowly and methodically taught to power that engine down. At school, we learn there is one right answer, and we are rewarded for finding it quickly, not for exploring 10 possible ones. We are praised for coloring inside the lines. We are conditioned to follow the rules, to be predictable, to prioritize rote memorization over imaginative exploration. Imagine your brain is a dense wilderness. As a child, you ran freely, creating 1,000 different trails. As you grew, you were guided toward a single paved superhighway, the road of logic, routine, and established fact. The more you traveled that highway, the better you got at it. But all those other little footpaths, they began to fade. Weeds grew over them. After years of using only the main road, you might glance into the wilderness and see no other paths at all, forgetting they ever existed. That is what happens when we say, "I'm not creative." We are mistaking a neglected path for a non-existent one. This book's purpose is to give you the map and tools to start clearing those trails again. The creative fire didn't go out, it was just buried. Our mission is to dig it up. Your very first task is to stop saying, "I am not creative." Erase that phrase from your internal and external monologue. From now on, you will reframe that thought. When it arises, replace it with this: "My creative skills are out of practice." Feel the power in that shift? The first statement is a final judgment. The second is an observation of a temporary state. It's not a verdict, it's a diagnosis with a clear path to recovery. You can't change a core identity, but you can always choose to practice a skill. This simple linguistic change is the first crack in that old foundation. It puts the power squarely back in your hands. You are not a victim of a design flaw. You are simply an athlete whose creative muscle has grown weak from disuse. And we're about to start the workout. Now let's move to the second giant myth, which is a close cousin of the first, and we're about to start the workout. Now let's move to the second giant myth, which is a close cousin of the first. This is the myth of the lightning bolt. This is the idea that creativity is a passive act. It's the image of the painter staring at a canvas for weeks until, in a flash of divine intervention, the entire painting appears in his mind's eye. It's the songwriter who is struck by a perfect melody while walking down the street. We love these stories. They are romantic and magical. They also do us a massive disservice because they teach us that the only thing we can do is wait. We wait for inspiration. We wait for the muse to visit. We wait for the lightning to strike. And if it doesn't, well, it must be because we're not one of the chosen ones, which leads us right back to the first myth. It's a vicious cycle. The truth is that great ideas rarely, if ever, appear fully formed from nowhere. The lightning bolt moment is not the beginning of the creative process. It is the end. It is the spectacular finale of a long, often invisible period of work. The great inventor Thomas Edison had one of the most famous quotes on this subject. He said, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." We love to focus on the 1%. The 99% perspiration part sounds like, well, a lot of work. But that's where the magic actually happens. The perspiration is the system. It's the process of collecting ideas, tinkering with them, combining them, and testing them. It's the act of showing up every day, even when you don't feel inspired. The lightning bolt is simply the moment when your brain, after all that perspiration, finally makes a new connection. It feels sudden to your conscious mind, but your subconscious has been working on it the whole time, sifting through all the material you fed it. We'll talk more about how this works in the next chapter, but for now, the lesson is this. Stop waiting to be inspired. Inspiration is not a cause, it's an effect. It is the reward you get for showing up and doing the work. A writer who waits for inspiration to write will have a lot of empty pages. A writer who writes a little bit every day, even if it's bad, will eventually write something good. They are feeding the machine. They are creating the conditions for the lightning to strike. Your job is not to be a passive lightning rod. Your job is to be an active storm chaser. You have to go where the action is, and the action is in the daily practice, in the perspiration. You must generate your own weather. The third and final boulder we need to demolish is the myth of originality. This one is particularly paralyzing in our modern internet-fueled world. We are obsessed with the idea of being completely 100% original. We have this deep-seated fear that if our idea isn't something the world has never ever seen before, then it's not valuable. We're afraid of being called a copycat, a fraud, or a hack. This pressure to create something from a complete vacuum, something with no influences, is not only impossible, it's also a terrible way to think about creativity. Here's a secret that all great creators understand. Nothing comes from nowhere. Every new idea is a remix or a combination of one or more previous ideas, every single one. Your job as a creator is not to make something out of nothing. Your job is to be a collector of good ideas, a curator of interesting things, and a master connector who can see a relationship between two things that nobody else has seen before. The writer Austin Kleon has a brilliant phrase for this: steal like an artist. This doesn't mean plagiarize or rip someone off. Good artists copy, great artists steal. What's the difference? Copying is just replicating someone's work. Stealing is about understanding the thinking behind the work. It's about breaking it down to its fundamental components, figuring out what makes it great, and then incorporating those components into your own unique vision. Let's look at one of the most beloved and seemingly original creations of our time, Star Wars. Was it a completely new idea that sprang fully formed from the mind of George Lucas? Not at all. Lucas was a master at stealing like an artist. He openly talked about his influences. He stole the swashbuckling adventure from old Flash Gordon's serials he loved as a kid. He stole the idea of the wise old warrior and the young apprentice, along with specific storytelling techniques and shot compositions, from the films of the great Japanese director Akira Kurosawa, particularly The Hidden Fortress. He stole the dogfighting space battles from old World War II movies. He stole archetypal characters from the mythology work of Joseph Campbell. Was Star Wars unoriginal? No. It was a masterpiece of creative synthesis. Lucas took all these different ingredients, from samurai films to sci-fi serials to war movies, put them into a blender, and created something that felt completely new and fresh. He didn't invent the ingredients, but the recipe was his and his alone. This should be incredibly freeing for you. It means you don't have to carry the crushing weight of inventing something from scratch. All you have to do is pay attention to the world. What do you love? What fascinates you? What work speaks to you? Collect those things. Study them. Take them apart to see how they work. Then start to connect them in new ways. Your unique creativity comes from your unique taste and your unique way of seeing the world. Nobody else has lived your life or has your specific combination of interests and experiences. Therefore, nobody else can connect the dots in the exact same way you can. Your voice is in the combination. So we have faced our three biggest myths. The lie that you are not creative, the lie that you must wait for a lightning bolt of inspiration, and the lie that you must be completely original. They are just stories we've told ourselves, boulders blocking the path. But now we see them for what they are. We can walk around them. We can break them down. Here is your first real piece of homework, your first actionable step in this journey. Take out a piece of paper or open a new note on your phone. I want you to write down one of these myths that has personally affected you the most. Maybe it's the voice in your head that says, "I'm not creative." Maybe it's the habit of waiting for inspiration that never comes. Maybe it's the fear that your idea isn't original enough. Write it down. Now next to it, I want you to write down the new truth we've discussed today. Instead of "I'm not creative," you will write, "My creative muscle is waiting to be practiced." Instead of "I need to wait for inspiration," you will write, "Inspiration is a reward for doing the work." Instead of "My idea has to be totally original," you will write, "My creativity comes from combining old ideas in new ways." This act of writing it down is important. It makes it real. It's a contract with yourself. You are officially serving an eviction notice to these old, unhelpful beliefs. Our land is now clear. In the next chapter, we will start to survey it and understand how it works by looking inside your own brain. Chapter 2, Your Brain's Idea Factory, How Creativity Actually Works. Welcome back. In our last chapter, we did the essential work of demolition. We cleared out the old broken myths that were telling you that creativity was for other people. We established a new, empowering foundation. Creativity is a skill, a muscle that can be trained. Now, with that clean slate, we can start building. And the first thing we need to understand is the machinery we're working with. That machinery is your brain. For most of us, the brain is a complete black box. Thoughts and ideas seem to just appear, and we have no idea where they came from or how to get more of them. It feels mysterious and uncontrollable. The goal of this chapter is to turn on the lights inside that black box. We are going to take a tour of your brain's idea factory. Don't worry, this isn't going to be a boring neuroscience lecture filled with complicated terms. We're going to use simple language and powerful analogies to give you a user's manual for your own mind. Understanding how your brain naturally creates ideas is the single most powerful step you can take towards making the process more reliable. When you understand how the machine works, you can start to operate it intentionally, instead of just hoping it turns on by accident. You will learn that your brain is not just one single factory, but rather it has two very different but equally important departments. and learning how to switch between them is the master key to unlocking your creative potential. Let's call these two departments, or two modes of thinking, the focused mode and the diffuse mode. This is a concept popularized by researchers like Dr. Barbara Oakley, and it is a brilliantly simple way to understand the different ways our brains work. First, let's meet the focused mode. This is the mode you are probably most familiar with. It's the one we are trained to use in school and at work. The focused mode is your brain's taskmaster, its hyper-focused librarian. When you are using the focused mode, your thoughts are like a laser beam. You are concentrating intently on a specific problem or a piece of information. Think about solving a math problem, step by step, or following a recipe to bake a cake, or writing an email where you have to be very precise with your words. In all these situations, you are using the focused mode. It is analytical, sequential, and logical. To use a metaphor, imagine the thoughts in your brain are like a single silver ball on a pinball machine. In the focused mode, the bumpers on the pinball machine are packed very tightly together. When you launch the ball of thought, it travels down a very narrow, well-worn path. It bounces between closely related ideas. If you're thinking about the problem 2 plus 2, the bumpers for 4 and addition and numbers are all very close, so the ball will find its way there quickly and efficiently. This is incredibly useful for executing on a plan, for refining an existing idea, or for working on problems where the path to the solution is already known. The focused mode is about work, not wonder. It's about building the house once you have the blueprints. The problem is, the focused mode is terrible at coming up with the blueprints in the first place. Because the bumpers are so close together, the ball of thought can never escape its narrow little neighborhood and travel to a completely different part of the brain to make a surprising new connection. For that, we need to switch to the other department. Now let's meet the diffuse mode. This is the real star of our creative show. The diffuse mode is your brain's daydreamer, its wandering poet, its playful inventor. This mode is more relaxed, holistic, and interconnected. It's the state your brain is in when you're not actively trying to think about anything in particular. It kicks in when you're doing something that doesn't require intense concentration, like taking a shower, going for a long walk in nature, washing the dishes, or just staring out a window. It is the brain's resting state, which scientists often refer to as the default mode network. But resting is a misleading term. Your brain isn't off. It's just working differently. Let's go back to our pinball machine metaphor. In the diffuse mode, it's as if the bumpers on the pinball machine are spread very, very far apart. They are almost gone. Now, when you launch that same ball of thought, it doesn't get stuck in one narrow path. It can travel all over the machine. It can ricochet from one corner of your brain to a completely different one. A thought about your work project might suddenly bounce off a memory from your childhood. That memory might bounce off a line from a movie you saw last week. That movie line might bounce off a snippet of a song you heard this morning, and suddenly in that wild, unpredictable bouncing, a new connection is made. The solution to your work project is sparked by the memory of a toy you had when you were 7. This is the magic of the diffuse mode. It is the source of insight, of intuition, and of those eureka moments that seem to come from out of the blue. It's where your brain creates the blueprints for the house, so we have two modes. The focused mode, the laser beam that is great for execution, and the diffuse mode, the floodlight that is great for exploration and new connections. The vast majority of us spend our days almost entirely in the focused mode. We go from a focused task at work to focusing on our phone screen, to focusing on a TV show. We rarely give our brains the chance to switch over to the diffuse network. We are so afraid of being bored that we fill every spare second with stimulation, and in doing so, we are strangling our own creativity. The secret to generating brilliant ideas on demand is not to choose one mode over the other. The secret is to learn how to dance between the two of them. Creativity is a tango between focus and diffusion. It follows a simple but profound rhythm. Step 1 is immersion. This is where you use the focused mode. You must first load the problem or the creative challenge into your brain. Gather all the information, do the research, work on the problem as hard as you can. Think about it, analyze it, struggle with it. You need to push until you hit a wall. This is a critical step. You have to feed your brain the raw materials. You have to activate the neural pathways related to the problem. You are basically telling your brain, hey, this is the thing I want you to work on. You are loading the pinball into the launcher. Step 2 is incubation. This is the most counterintuitive but most important step. Once you have hit that wall, you must walk away. You have to completely let go of the problem and do something that shifts you into the diffuse mode. This means doing something that requires very little focused attention. Go for a run without a podcast, take a long shower, do some gardening, meditate, lie on the grass and watch the clouds. The key is to truly disengage. If you're still thinking about the problem in the back of your mind, it won't work. You have to trust the process. You have loaded the problem, and now you are handing it over to the subconscious, to the powerful diffuse mode to work its magic. You have launched the pinball and now you are letting it bounce around freely. Step 3 is illumination. This is the moment we all crave, the eureka, the aha. It's the moment when, while you're in the middle of washing the dishes or driving your car, the solution or the idea seems to pop into your head, fully formed and out of nowhere. It feels like magic, but it isn't. It's the result of the diffuse mode, finally making a novel connection between the problem you loaded in step 1 and some other random piece of information stored elsewhere in your brain. The new pathway has been formed. There is a legendary story that perfectly illustrates this process. It's the story of the ancient Greek scholar Archimedes. He was given a task by the king. The king had a new crown made and suspected that the goldsmith had cheated him by mixing cheaper silver in with the gold. He tasked Archimedes with figuring out if the crown was pure gold without damaging it. This was a huge problem. Archimedes could weigh the crown, but how could he measure its volume to determine its density? He obsessed over it. He spent days in his study, using his focused mode, trying every formula and every method he could think of. He was completely stuck. He hit a wall. Frustrated, he decided to take a break and go to the public baths to relax. He was moving into step 2, incubation. As he stepped into the full bathtub, he noticed the water level rise and spill over the side. He was in the diffuse mode, completely relaxed, not thinking about the problem at all. And then it happened. Illumination. In a flash, he made the connection. He realized that the volume of water that spilled out was equal to the volume of his body that he had submerged. He could use the same principle to find the volume of the crown. He had found the solution. The story goes that he was so excited, he leaped out of the bath and ran naked through the streets of Syracuse shouting, "Eureka, Eureka," which means, "I have found it." This story is more than 2,000 years old, but it gives us the perfect formula. 1. Focus intensely on the problem. 2. Relax and let it go completely. 3. Be ready for the insight to arrive when you least expect it. This isn't just a fun story, it's your new operating manual. You have an Archimedes brain. You have an idea factory with 2 powerful modes of operation. Your task is to stop overworking the focused mode and to start intentionally creating space for the diffuse mode to do its job. So here is your actionable takeaway for this chapter. It is simple, but it may be one of the most impactful things you do all week. I want you to schedule do nothing time. Look at your calendar for the coming week and find 3 slots of at least 15 to 20 minutes each. Block them out. Label them diffuse mode meeting or idea time. Treat this appointment with the same respect you would a meeting with your boss. When that time comes, you must put your phone away. No podcasts, no audiobooks, no music with lyrics, no television. You can go for a walk, you can sit in a chair and stare out the window, you can doodle aimlessly. You can take a shower. The activity itself doesn't matter, as long as it is low stimulus and allows your mind to wander freely. At first, this might feel incredibly uncomfortable. You might feel bored or anxious, or feel like you should be doing something productive. That's a sign of how addicted we are to constant focus and stimulation. Stay with it. Your goal is not to have a brilliant idea during these 15 minutes. Your goal is simply to practice letting go. It's to build your ability to switch into the diffuse mode on command. You are training your brain to enter its most creative state. You are giving your inner idea factory the space and the silence it needs to operate. Trust the process. The ideas will come not because you are chasing them, but because you are finally giving them the room to be born. Chapter 3. The Creative Ecosystem. Designing Your Environment. In the last chapter, we took a journey deep inside the most complex and powerful tool you will ever own, your brain. We met the two competing but complementary modes of thinking, the focused taskmaster and the diffuse daydreamer. You now understand the fundamental rhythm of creativity, the dance between intense focus and deliberate relaxation. You have the secret formula that Archimedes used, the formula of immersion, incubation, and illumination. You have begun the practice of scheduling do-nothing time, of intentionally creating the mental space for your best ideas to be born. You now have the user's manual, but even the most skilled operator with the best manual will struggle if their factory is a mess. A brilliant chef cannot create a masterpiece in a dirty, disorganized kitchen with no ingredients. In the same way, you cannot expect your brain to function at its creative peak if the world around you is working against it. This brings us to the next crucial layer of our work together. We are now going to zoom out from the internal world of your mind and look at the external world you inhabit. We are going to talk about your creative ecosystem. An ecosystem is a community of living organisms interacting with their physical environment. Think of a rainforest. The health of any single tree is dependent on the quality of the soil, the amount of rainfall, the sunlight filtering through the canopy, and the other plants and animals around it. Everything is connected. Your creativity is exactly the same. It is not an isolated event that happens in a vacuum. It is a living thing that is profoundly affected by the environment you place it in. Your job as a creator is to stop being a passive resident of your ecosystem and to start being its active and intentional designer. You must become a gardener for your own mind. A gardener does not force a seed to grow. They cannot yell at it or command it to sprout. A gardener's power comes from their ability to cultivate the right conditions. They prepare the soil, they provide the water, they ensure there is enough sunlight, and they pull the weeds that would choke out the new growth. When the conditions are right, the seed grows all by itself. Our goal in this chapter is to teach you how to become that master gardener. We will break down your creative ecosystem into three critical domains: your physical environment, your digital environment, and your input environment. For each one, we will show you exactly how it is either helping or hurting you, and we will give you simple, powerful, and actionable steps to start cultivating an ecosystem where your best ideas don't just survive, but thrive. Let's begin with the most tangible and immediate part of your ecosystem, your physical environment, the space where you live and work. We tend to think of our surroundings as a passive backdrop to our lives, just a stage on which the real action happens. But this couldn't be further from the truth. The rooms you are in, the chair you sit on, the objects on your desk, the view from your window, they are all active participants in your thinking process. They are constantly sending subtle signals to your brain, influencing your mood, your energy levels, and your ability to focus or to dream. There is a whole field of study around this called psychogeography, which is just a fancy way of saying that our physical location has a direct and measurable impact on our psychological state. You have felt this yourself. Think about the difference in how you feel when you are in a cramped, cluttered, windowless basement versus how you feel when you are standing on a quiet beach, looking out at the ocean. Your thoughts are different. Your perspective shifts. One environment constricts you, the other expands you. The great writer J.K. Rowling experienced this in a profound way. As she was trying to finish the final book in the Harry Potter series, The Deathly Hallows, she found herself struggling to write at home. The distractions were too much. The dogs were barking, the kids were home. The reality of everyday life was constantly intruding on the fantasy world she needed to inhabit. Her physical environment was no longer conducive to the deep, focused work required. So, what did she do? She took a radical step. She checked into a grand, quiet suite at the Balmoral, a 5-star hotel in Edinburgh. The new environment was a signal to her brain. This is a special place. This is a place for work. The distractions were gone. The grand architecture inspired her. The simple act of changing her location allowed her to finish one of the most anticipated books of all time. Now, I am not telling you that you need to check into a luxury hotel to have a good idea. But the principle is what matters. You must become conscious of how your spaces make you feel and start to shape them with intention. The first and most important element to design in your physical space is what I call the capture station. In the previous chapter, we talked about how ideas are slippery and need to be captured the moment they appear. The capture station is the physical manifestation of this rule. It is a dedicated, sacred spot where your tools for capturing ideas are always at the ready. The goal is to reduce the friction, the activation energy, between having a thought and writing it down to almost zero. When you have to stand up, walk to another room, find a pen that works, and then find a scrap of paper, the idea is often gone by the time you're ready. That tiny bit of friction is a creativity killer. A capture station eliminates that friction. What does a capture station look like? It can be anything, as long as it is consistent and always ready. For some, it might be a small, clean corner of their desk. On it sits a specific notebook, maybe a nice one that feels good to write in, and a favorite pen that flows smoothly. That's it. That corner is not for bills or coffee mugs or other clutter. It is the altar upon which you place your ideas. For others, it might be a large whiteboard mounted on a wall. It's big, it's inviting, and it gives you the freedom to draw connections, write big, and think expansively. The markers are always there. The eraser is always there. It's ready to go at a moment's notice. The famous television writer and producer Shonda Rhimes, the creator of shows like Grey's Anatomy and Scandal, is known for having whiteboards all over her house because she knows that an idea can strike anywhere. For the more adventurous, a capture station could be a waterproof notepad and pencil that you stick to the wall of your shower. We all know that the shower is a prime location for diffuse mode thinking and eureka's moments. How many brilliant ideas have been lost to the drain because there was no way to capture them? By creating a simple shower capture station, you are telling your brain that even your shower thoughts are valuable and worthy of being recorded. The specific tool doesn't matter as much as the principle. Make it easy, make it dedicated, and make it permanent. Your capture station is a physical commitment to your own creativity. It's a signal to yourself that you take your ideas seriously. It transforms you from a passive victim of fleeting thoughts into an active hunter of inspiration. Your actionable task here is to design and set up your first capture station today. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just start. Clear a small space, put a notebook and pen there, and the next time a flicker of an idea crosses your mind, you will have a place to honor it. Now let's address a question that plagues many people when thinking about their workspace, the great debate between tidy and messy. We are often told that a clean desk is a sign of a clean mind. Clutter is chaos, they say. And for certain types of work, this is absolutely true. But when it comes to creativity, the story is more complex and far more interesting. A fascinating study led by a researcher named Kathleen Vose at the University of Minnesota looked at this very question. They put participants into two different rooms. One room was perfectly neat and tidy. The other was intentionally messy, with papers strewn about and clutter on the desk. They then asked the participants to perform a series of tasks. One of the tasks was to come up with new uses for a ping pong ball. The results were astounding. The people in the messy room generated ideas that were consistently rated as more interesting and more creative by impartial judges than the people in the tidy room. In another experiment, the researchers found that people in the tidy room were more likely to do what was expected of them. They donated more to charity and chose healthier snacks. The people in the messy room, on the other hand, were more likely to choose novelty and break from convention. What does this tell us? It tells us that our environment can actually prime our brain for different styles of thinking. A tidy, orderly environment seems to trigger the part of our brain that likes rules, conventions, and doing the right thing. It puts us into that focused mode we talked about, which is excellent for executing a plan. A messy, disordered environment, however, seems to give our brain permission to break free from convention. It disrupts the expected patterns and encourages the kind of non-linear associative thinking that is characteristic of the diffuse mode. It is a physical invitation to think outside the box. So the answer to the tidy versus messy debate is not that one is better than the other. The answer is that they are different tools for different jobs. You wouldn't use a hammer to saw a piece of wood. In the same way, you shouldn't use a tidy desk for a brainstorming session, and you shouldn't use a messy desk for finalizing your tax return. The power lies in being intentional. You can strategically design your environment to match the type of thinking you need to do. When it's time to generate new ideas, to brainstorm, to explore wild possibilities, give yourself permission to make a creative mess. Spread your books and notes out on the floor. Stick papers all over the wall. Embrace a little bit of chaos. You are signaling to your brain that it's time to play and explore. But when you have chosen an idea, and it's time to execute, to refine, to edit, and to bring it to completion, that is the time to clean up. Create an orderly, tidy space. This signals to your brain that the time for exploration is over and the time for focused work has begun. You can even have two separate spaces, a messy table for brainstorming and a clean desk for writing. The key is to move from being a victim of your mess or a slave to tidiness and to become a strategic user of both. Finally, in our physical ecosystem, we must talk about the most powerful and most ancient tool for creative thought we have, nature. For millions of years, our brains evolved while walking, hunting, and gathering outdoors. It is only in the last few hundred years, a mere blip in our evolutionary history, that we have confined ourselves to sterile, box-like rooms, staring at glowing rectangles. Our brains are not built for this. There is a concept known as biophilia, which suggests that we have an innate biological need to connect with nature. When we are deprived of that connection, our mental and physical health suffers. And one of the first things to suffer is our creativity. Countless studies have confirmed this. Spending time in nature has been shown to lower cortisol, the stress hormone that inhibits creative thinking. It has been shown to reduce rumination, that state of getting stuck in a negative thought loop, which is the enemy of the diffuse mode. One of the most compelling pieces of research comes from David Strayer, a cognitive psychologist at the University of Utah. He studies what he calls the 3-day effect. He takes groups of people on multi-day wilderness trips with no access to technology. After just 3 days of being immersed in nature, their performance on creative problem-solving tasks improves by a staggering 50%. 50%. Strayer believes this happens because nature provides what he calls soft fascination. Unlike a city street or a phone screen, which is constantly demanding our focused attention, a natural landscape engages our attention gently. This allows our prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for intense focus and decision-making, to rest and recharge. It is the ultimate diffuse mode activator. You don't need to go on a 3-day wilderness trek to get these benefits, although it would certainly help. The lesson is to intentionally integrate nature into your creative practice. That do-nothing time we talked about in the last chapter. Take it outside. Go for a walk in a park. Sit under a tree. Even having a few plants on your desk has been shown to have a positive effect. When you're stuck on a problem, don't just stare harder at your screen. That's like trying to dig yourself out of a hole. The answer is to get up, go outside, and walk. The simple rhythmic act of walking, combined with the gentle stimulation of a natural environment, is one of the most reliable ways to get unstuck and trigger new insights. Many of the greatest thinkers in history, from Aristotle to Nietzsche to Steve Jobs, were prodigious walkers. They knew instinctively what science is now proving. Walking is thinking. Make it a non-negotiable part of your creative process. We have now explored the physical ecosystem, but in the 21st century we all live in a second ecosystem, one that is just as real and often far more demanding of our attention. This is our digital environment. It is the world inside our phones, our tablets, and our computers. And if we are not careful, this digital ecosystem can become the most toxic, creativity-destroying force in our lives. Our modern digital tools are not neutral. They have been intentionally designed by some of the smartest people in the world to do one thing: capture and hold your attention for as long as possible. Your attention is the product they sell to advertisers. Apps use techniques borrowed from the casino industry, like variable rewards and bright, stimulating colors, to create a psychological pull that is incredibly difficult to resist. The endless scroll, the little red notification bubble, the pull to refresh gesture, these are not features designed to help you. They are features designed to hook you. Why is this so bad for creativity? Because this constant stream of digital distraction creates a state of perpetual attention residue. This is a concept from the research of Professor Sophie Leroy. Her work shows that when you switch from one task, say writing a report, to another, like quickly checking an email, a part of your cognitive capacity, a residue of your attention, stays stuck on the task you just switched away from. This means that when you return to your original task, you are operating with a reduced mental capacity. You are literally dumber. Now imagine what happens when you are checking your phone every few minutes. You are living in a constant state of attention residue. You are never able to give your full, undivided attention to a single, deep thought. You are fracturing your focus into 1,000 tiny, useless pieces. This state of constant, shallow distraction is the absolute opposite of the deep focus required for step 1, immersion, and it prevents the quiet mind-wandering required for step 2, incubation. It is the kryptonite of the creative process. To build a healthy creative ecosystem, you must declare war on distraction. You must transform your relationship with your digital devices from one of a passive, addicted consumer to an intentional, masterful user. This is not about throwing your phone in the river. It's about taking back control. It's about making your devices serve you, not the other way around. Let's talk about some specific, powerful strategies to tame this digital beast. The first strategy is the notification purge. The single biggest source of attention residue is the constant barrage of notifications. Each buzz, each ping, each little red dot is a tiny interruption that pulls you out of deep thought and leaves a residue. The solution is simple but radical. Go into the settings on your phone and turn off every single notification. Yes, every single one. Banners, sounds, badge app icons, all of it. Then after you have taken a deep breath, you can go back and turn on a very select few. My rule of thumb is this: only allow notifications from applications that involve a real human being waiting for a timely response from you. This might mean your phone calls and your text messages. That's probably it. Do you really need your phone to buzz because someone you barely know liked your photo on Instagram? Do you need a banner to pop up telling you about a sale on a shopping app? No. These are not urgent. They are machines demanding your attention. By turning them off, you are reclaiming your time and your focus. You decide when you want to engage with those apps, on your own schedule. You are moving from a reactive state to a proactive one. The second strategy is to curate your home screen. Your phone's home screen is some of the most valuable real estate in your digital life. Whatever is on it is what you will open most often. Most people's home screens are a disaster zone of slot machine apps, social media, news, email, games. Every time you unlock your phone, you are presenting yourself with a buffet of distractions. The solution is to turn your home screen from a consumption menu into a toolbox. Go through your home screen and delete every single app that represents an infinite scroll or a source of mindless distraction. Move them all into a folder on your second or third page, or better yet, delete them entirely and only access them through the web browser, which adds a crucial layer of friction. What should be on your home screen? Only tools: the camera, the maps, the notes app, the calendar, the calculator. Apps that help you do something, not just consume something. This simple change transforms your phone from a toy that pulls you in to a tool that you use with purpose. A third, more advanced strategy is the grayscale trick. Go into your phone's accessibility settings and find the option to turn your screen to grayscale. This will make your entire phone look like a 1950s television. Why would you do this? Because you are hacking the psychology that the app designers are using against you. They have spent millions of dollars figuring out which specific shades of red, orange, and blue are most likely to trigger a dopamine response in your brain, the same neurotransmitter involved in pleasure and addiction. The bright red of a notification bubble is not an accident. It's designed to create a sense of urgency and reward. When you turn your screen to grayscale, you strip all of that away. The apps suddenly look dull and boring. The psychological pull is dramatically weakened. Your phone is transformed from a vibrant casino into a boring utility. It is one of the most effective ways to break the compulsive checking cycle. By implementing these digital hygiene practices, you are not just becoming more productive. You are creating the mental silence necessary for your diffuse mode to work. You are building a digital environment that protects your focus and nurtures your ability to think deeply. It is a profound act of creative self-care. Finally, we arrive at the third and perhaps most important part of your creative ecosystem, your input environment. There is a simple, unyielding principle in all creative work. You cannot create what you have not, in some form, consumed. An idea, as we discussed in the first chapter, is simply a new combination of old elements. The old elements are the things you have stored in your brain. The books you've read, the conversations you've had, the music you've heard, the experiences you've lived. These inputs are the raw materials for your idea factory. The quality and variety of your output is therefore completely dependent on the quality and variety of your input. It's the garbage in, garbage out principle. If you only feed your mind a diet of junk food, the same type of news, the same type of shows, the same opinions from the same people, then your brain will only have junk food ingredients to work with. Your ideas will be stale, predictable, and uninspired. The great danger of our modern media landscape is the algorithmic echo chamber. The recommendation engines on platforms like YouTube, Netflix, and Spotify are incredibly sophisticated. They are designed to do one thing: figure out what you like and then give you more of the same. If you watch a video about gardening, it will recommend 10 more videos about gardening. If you listen to a rock band from the 90s, it will create a whole playlist of other rock bands from the 90s. This feels comfortable and easy. It ensures you will never be bored. But it is a death trap for creativity. It creates an input monoculture. It's like a farmer who only ever plants corn. The soil becomes depleted of other nutrients, and the entire crop becomes vulnerable to a single disease. An algorithmic echo chamber starves your brain of the most important ingredient for creativity: serendipity. Serendipity is the magic of stumbling upon something new and unexpected, something you weren't looking for. It's that random connection that sparks a new idea. The algorithm is designed to kill serendipity. Your job as a creative gardener is to actively fight against this. You must consciously curate a diverse and varied input diet for your mind. You have to force-feed it novelty. You have to go out of your way to find the strange, the confusing, and the unexpected. How do you do this? You must practice the art of active diversification. This means making a conscious effort to consume content that is well outside your area of expertise and comfort zone. Let me give you a concrete plan. A weekly input challenge. On Monday, your task is to read a poem. Poetry uses language in a very different way than prose. It is about rhythm, metaphor, and emotion. It will stretch the language centers of your brain. On Tuesday, watch a documentary on a subject you know absolutely nothing about. If you're a business person, watch one about deep-sea biology. If you're an artist, watch one about particle physics. You are not trying to become an expert. You are simply stocking your mental shelves with new and unusual ingredients. On Wednesday, listen to a genre of music that you normally dislike. Try to understand what its fans see in it. What is its structure? What emotions does it evoke? This builds empathy and broadens your aesthetic palette. On Thursday, go to a library or a bookstore. Walk to a section you would never normally visit, like urban planning or medieval history. Close your eyes, run your finger along the spines, and pull out one book. Read the first 10 pages. On Friday, have a conversation with someone who is very different from you. It could be a person much older or younger, someone from a different country, or someone who works in a completely different field. Ask them what they are passionate about, and just listen. This practice might feel strange at first, but what you are doing is planting exotic seeds in the garden of your mind. You have no idea when or how they will sprout, but you are creating the potential for incredible new hybrids. Your solution to a marketing problem might one day be sparked by that documentary on fungi. The structure of your novel might be inspired by the rhythms of that strange music you listened to. You are cross-pollinating your mind. Another powerful concept here is the idea of the anti-library, a term coined by the writer Nassim Taleb. He observed that we tend to display the books we have read as a way of showing off what we know. He argues that the truly wise person has a library filled with books they have not read. This anti-library is a constant physical reminder of all the things you do not know. It fosters intellectual humility and a powerful sense of curiosity. It taunts you with the vastness of the world's knowledge and invites you to explore. I encourage you to build your own small anti-library. Buy a few books that intimidate you, books that you feel you are not smart enough to read yet. Let them sit on your shelf as a challenge and an invitation. We have now journeyed through the three domains of your creative ecosystem: the physical, the digital, and the input. You can now see that creativity is not just a mental game. It is a holistic practice that involves your body, your space, your technology, and your consumption habits. You are a gardener, and your work is to tend to this entire ecosystem. So let's bring it all together with our final, actionable takeaway for this chapter. I call this the ecosystem audit. I want you to set aside 30 minutes, right now if you can, and perform a simple audit of your creative environment. Take out a piece of paper and divide it into 3 sections. First, your physical environment. Look at the space where you do most of your thinking or creative work. Be honest. Is it helping or hurting you? What is one single small change you can make right now to improve it? Don't think about a massive renovation. Think small. Can you clear one corner of your desk to create a capture station? Can you buy one plant to put on your windowsill? Can you commit to taking a 10-minute walk outside the next time you feel stuck? Choose one thing and do it. Second, your digital environment. Pick up your phone. What is the one biggest source of distraction for you? Is it a specific social media app? Is it the constant ping of email? Choose one of the strategies we discussed and implement it right now. Turn off the notifications for just that one app. Move it off your home screen. Turn your screen to grayscale for the rest of the day. Take one small step to reclaim your focus. Third, your input environment. Think about what you have consumed in the last week. Has it been varied or has it been more of the same? Your task is to find one piece of content that is completely outside your algorithmic echo chamber and schedule a time to consume it today. Find that documentary on a strange topic. Look up that poem. Find that playlist of music from another country. Actively choose to plant one new exotic seed in your mind. By performing this simple audit, you are taking your first steps as a conscious designer of your own creative ecosystem. You are no longer just living in your environment, you are shaping it. You are preparing the soil, providing the water, and pulling the weeds. You are creating the conditions for your best ideas to finally, gloriously, break through the surface. In our next chapter, we will turn our attention to the art and science of capturing those ideas, ensuring that not a single one ever gets away from you again. Chapter 4. The Idea Net. How to capture every spark. Welcome back. In our journey so far, we have cleared the ground by demolishing the myths that held you back. We have taken a tour of your brain's inner workings, learning to dance between the focused taskmaster and the diffuse daydreamer. And we have become intentional gardeners of our own creative ecosystem, cultivating the physical, digital, and intellectual soil where our ideas can grow. You now understand the conditions necessary for creativity. You have the right mindset and the right environment. But all of that is for nothing if we fail at the next step. This step is so fundamental, so critical, that if you get this one thing wrong, all the brilliant insights your brain generates will vanish like mist in the morning sun. This chapter is about forging your idea net. It is about the single most important, non-negotiable habit of every productive, creative person who has ever lived: the art of capture. I want you to think about the last time you had a truly brilliant idea. Maybe it was in the shower, as the warm water ran over you and your mind was finally quiet. Maybe it was on a long drive, as the road hypnotically unspooled before you. Or maybe it was in that strange, magical state just before you fell asleep, when the world of logic gives way to the world of dreams. You had it. A flash of insight. The perfect solution to a problem you'd been wrestling with for weeks. The opening line to a story. A business idea that felt so obvious, so perfect, you couldn't believe no one had thought of it before. In that moment, you felt a jolt of excitement, of genius. You said to yourself, "This is it, this is too good to forget. I'll definitely remember this in the morning." And what happened? In the morning, it was gone. You could remember the feeling of having the idea. You could remember being excited. But the idea itself? It was a ghost, a faint outline, a frustrating whisper at the edge of your memory that you just couldn't grasp. The more you chased it, the more it receded. You have experienced this. We all have. This feeling of loss, this ghost of a forgotten idea, is the single greatest tragedy in the creative life. How many world-changing inventions, how many beautiful songs, how many life-altering solutions have been lost forever, not because they were bad ideas, but because they were simply not written down. We must begin with a foundational truth, a law of creativity as fundamental as the law of gravity. Your brain is for having ideas, not for holding them. Let me say that again because it is the cornerstone of this entire chapter. Your brain is for having ideas, not for holding them. We treat our minds like a storage warehouse, asking them to keep track of our to-do lists, our appointments, our responsibilities, and our brilliant fleeting ideas. But that's not what the brain's conscious working memory is designed for. Think of your working memory as a very small whiteboard at the front of a classroom. It has a very limited capacity, able to hold only a few pieces of information at a time. Scientists used to call this the 7 ± 2 rule, meaning we can hold about 5 to 9 items in our active consciousness at once. A new thought, a new idea is like a fresh drawing on that whiteboard. It's vivid and clear for a moment. But then the next thought comes along. The phone rings. Someone asks you a question. You think about what you need to buy at the grocery store. And with each new thought, the teacher has to erase a part of the whiteboard to make room. Your brilliant idea, the one that felt so permanent, gets wiped away to make space for the thought, don't forget to buy milk. It's not a personal failure. It's a system limitation. Expecting your brain to hold on to a new idea is like expecting a small whiteboard to hold all the notes for an entire semester. It is destined to fail. This is where the act of capture comes in. Writing an idea down or speaking it into a recorder is the act of transferring the drawing from the small temporary whiteboard of your working memory onto a permanent external hard drive. You are moving it from a place of extreme vulnerability to a place of absolute safety. Once the idea is captured, the whiteboard is free again. Your mind is clear. And a clear mind is a creative mind. The writer and productivity expert David Allen built an entire philosophy around this concept, which he calls mind like water. Imagine a perfectly still pond. If you throw a small pebble into it, the water reacts appropriately and then returns to stillness. This is how our minds should work. When we have a thought or an idea, we should deal with it, in this case by capturing it, and then our mind should return to a state of calm readiness. But for most of us, our minds are not like still water. They are like a churning muddy puddle because we have thrown hundreds of pebbles, unfinished tasks, worries, and uncaptured ideas into them and just left them there. Every uncaptured idea is an open loop, a drain on your mental energy. It's a little voice in the back of your head saying, "Don't forget me, don't forget me." This constant background noise makes it impossible to think clearly and to have new, better ideas. Capturing an idea is not just about saving it, it's about closing the loop. It is an act of mental hygiene. It is the practice that allows your mind to return to water, ready and waiting for the next pebble of inspiration. The greatest creative minds in history understood this intuitively. They were not just great thinkers, they were obsessive capturers. The ultimate example is Leonardo da Vinci. We think of him as a painter, the genius behind the Mona Lisa. But he was so much more, and the reason we know this is because of his notebooks. Da Vinci carried a notebook with him everywhere he went. He was constantly sketching, constantly writing, constantly capturing the world around him. We have over 7,000 pages of his notebooks that have survived. And what's in them is a testament to a mind that refused to let a single spark go cold. There are intricate anatomical drawings of muscles and bones. There are designs for flying machines and war machines that were centuries ahead of their time. There are architectural plans, studies of light and shadow, mathematical calculations. But mixed in with all of this genius are perfectly ordinary things. He has to-do lists. He has shopping lists. He has notes of things he wants to learn, like describe the tongue of a woodpecker. He has doodles in the margins. He captured everything. He did not discriminate. He did not judge whether a thought was worthy of being written down. He understood that every observation, every question, every fleeting thought was a potential ingredient for a future masterpiece. His notebooks were not a polished portfolio of his best work. They were the messy, chaotic, and beautiful record of a mind in constant conversation with the world. He was living the first rule of capture. This brings us to the golden rule, the operational command for your new habit. It is simple, absolute, and you must follow it with the devotion of a monk. The rule is, capture now, judge later. At the moment an idea is born, it is a tiny, fragile seedling. It has no defenses, it is pure potential. At that exact moment, another part of your brain often wakes up. We've talked about this character before. It's your inner critic. The critic is the voice of judgment, of practicality, of past failures. It is the part of you that is terrified of looking stupid. And when that new, fragile seedling of an idea pops its head out of the ground, the inner critic's immediate impulse is to stomp on it. It says, "That's a dumb idea. It will never work. Someone has already done that. You're not smart enough to pull that off." If you listen to that voice, if you pause to evaluate the idea before you have even given it the dignity of writing it down, the seedling is dead. It never even had a chance. The act of judging and the act of generating are two fundamentally different modes of thought. Generating is an act of the expansive, playful, diffuse mode. Judging is an act of the analytical, critical, focused mode. Trying to do both at the same time is like trying to drive a car by flooring the accelerator and the brake pedal simultaneously. You will create a lot of smoke and noise, but you will go nowhere. You are creating a neurological traffic jam. Therefore, you must create a firewall between the two processes. When you are in capture mode, the inner critic is banished from the room. Its opinion is not welcome, its services are not required. Your only job, your only mission, is to get the idea out of your head and onto the page or into the recorder. That's it. You are not deciding if it's a good idea or a bad idea. You are not figuring out how you would execute it. You are not worrying about what other people would think of it. You are simply acting as a loyal scribe for your own mind. You are honoring the spark. The time for judgment will come, but it will come later. It will come tomorrow or next week, when you have emotional distance from the idea and you can evaluate it with a clear, rational mind. But in the moment of creation, there is only one command, capture. To help you embrace this, I want to give you a new target to aim for. I want you to adopt a bad idea quota. Most of us are paralyzed because we are trying to have a good idea. The pressure is immense, but what if your goal for the day was to have 10 bad ideas? What if your assignment was to fill a page of your notebook with the most ridiculous, unworkable, and silly ideas you can think of? Suddenly, the pressure is gone. It becomes a game. It becomes fun. And a funny thing happens when you give yourself permission to have bad ideas. You start having a lot of ideas, and hidden among the 99 bad ideas will be the seed of one that is unexpectedly brilliant. Creativity is a numbers game. The legendary Linus Pauling, the only person in history to win 2 unshared Nobel Prizes, was once asked how he had so many good ideas. His answer was simple: "I have a lot of ideas and I throw away the bad ones." He didn't say he only had good ideas. He said he had a lot of ideas, period. The good ones were a statistical inevitability of the high volume. By aiming to fill your bad idea quota, you are living this principle. You are understanding that every bad idea you write down is not a failure. It is a necessary stepping stone on the path to a good one. You are clearing the pipes. The story of the Post-it note is a perfect real-world example of this principle. In 1968, a scientist at the company 3M named Dr. Spencer Silver was working on creating a super-strong adhesive. Instead, he accidentally created the opposite: a very weak, low-tack adhesive that would stick to surfaces but could be easily peeled off without leaving a residue. By the standards of his project, this was a complete failure. It was a bad idea. But for some reason, Dr. Silver didn't throw it away. He captured it. He saw that it was unique, even if he didn't know what it was for. He spent years telling other people at 3M about his solution without a problem. Most people shrugged. It seemed useless. Years later, another 3M scientist named Art Fry was singing in his church choir. He used little slips of paper to mark the hymns in his hymnal, but they kept falling out. It was a small but persistent frustration. Then, in a moment of insight, in a classic diffuse mode connection, he remembered Dr. Silver's bad idea, that weird, weak adhesive. What if he could coat his paper bookmarks with that adhesive? They would stick to the page, but he could peel them off without damaging the book. He connected a problem with a previously captured, seemingly useless solution. And the Post-it note, one of the most successful office products in history, was born. This story is a powerful lesson. Capture your bad ideas. Capture your solutions that don't have problems yet. You never know when you, or someone else, might have the exact problem that your idea solves. Your idea net must be big enough and strong enough to hold everything. So how do we forge this net? What are the practical real-world tools we can use to ensure we are always ready? The options are many, but the guiding principle is this. The best capture tool is the one you will actually use, and the very best one is the one you have with you right now. We live in an age of incredible choice, which can sometimes be paralyzing. I'm going to break down the options into two main paths, the analog and the digital. It is not a competition. One is not inherently better than the other. They are different tools with different strengths, and many people find that a hybrid system works best. Let's start with the classic, the timeless, the romantic path, the analog. This is the path of pen and paper. In our hyper-digital world, there is a unique power and a profound beauty in the physical act of writing. When you type, your fingers are always making the same repetitive motions. But when you write by hand, you are forming unique shapes. There is a direct, haptic connection between your brain, your hand, and the page. Scientific studies have repeatedly shown that students who take notes by hand have a better memory and a deeper conceptual understanding of the material than students who type their notes. Why? Because writing is slower. It forces you to process and summarize the information in real time. It's an act of mindful engagement, not just mindless transcription. For creativity, this is huge. A blank page is a space of infinite freedom. You are not confined by the linear structure of a word processor. You can write a word, then draw a picture next to it. You can connect two ideas with a swooping arrow. You can write big when you're excited and small when you're uncertain. You are thinking with your hands. If you choose the analog path, your primary tool is the notebook. But not all notebooks are created equal. The most effective notebook is the one that is always with you. For this reason, I am a huge proponent of the pocket notebook, a small notebook, something around 3.5 by 5.5 inches, that can slip easily into a pocket or a purse. Brands like Field Notes or Moleskine have built entire empires on this concept. The power of the pocket notebook is its ubiquity. It is with you on the bus, in the grocery store line, at the doctor's office. You are never caught without it. It becomes an extension of your mind, a trusted companion. When you commit to carrying one, you are sending a powerful signal to your brain. I am ready. I am listening. Your ideas are safe with me. And your brain will respond by giving you more ideas, because it trusts that they will not be lost. Another wonderful analog tool is the humble index card. The writer Ryan Holiday is a famous advocate for this system, which he uses to organize his research for his best-selling books. The beauty of the index card is that each card holds only one idea. This forces you to be concise. It also makes your ideas modular. You can lay them all out on a table or the floor and physically rearrange them. You can see new connections and create new structures by shuffling your cards. It's a tactile way of thinking. You can keep a small stack of blank cards in your pocket, held together by a binder clip. And you have a portable, powerful capture system. Now let's turn to the digital path. The single greatest advantage of digital capture is that the most powerful capture device ever created is probably already in your pocket. Your smartphone. It's always with you, it's always on, and its capabilities are incredible. The key is to use it with intention, as a capture tool, not a distraction machine. The most common mistake people make is choosing a digital tool that is too complicated. They download a feature-rich app with 1,000 organizational options, and then they spend more time fiddling with the tags and the folders than they do capturing ideas. For digital capture, simplicity is king. You want an app that opens instantly and presents you with a blank space to type. There are many great options. Google Keep is a favorite for many because of its simplicity and visual interface. It works like a digital corkboard of sticky notes. You can type a quick note, add an image, or even draw a sketch with your finger. It's fast, flexible, and syncs across all your devices. Apple Notes, which is built into every iPhone and Mac, is another fantastic friction-free option. It's clean, reliable, and has powerful features like the ability to scan documents and create checklists. Evernote is a more powerful option for those who want to build a true second brain, but be careful not to get bogged down in its complexity. Start simple. Perhaps the most underrated and powerful digital capture tool is the voice recorder app that is built into every smartphone. Think about all the times you have ideas when you can't type or write, when you're driving, when you're walking the dog, when you're cooking. In these moments, trying to remember the idea until you can write it down is a recipe for failure. The voice recorder is your savior. The key to using it effectively is to let go of your self-consciousness. Don't try to sound polished or articulate. Just open the app, hit record, and speak your thought out loud as if you were leaving a message for your future self. Idea for a book: a detective who solves crimes by analyzing people's garbage. Observation: the sound of the wind in that specific tree sounds like the ocean. Question: what would happen if gravity was 10% weaker? Just get it out. This is the lowest friction capture method in existence. It takes a second to open the app and press a button. Make it your go-to tool for when your hands are busy. Ultimately, you may find that a hybrid system is the perfect solution. You might use a voice memo to capture an idea while driving, then later that evening, you sit down with your analog journal and transcribe that idea, fleshing it out with more detail. You might use a digital app for quick logistical captures, like a book recommendation, but use a physical notebook for your deeper, more reflective brainstorming sessions. The system doesn't matter. The consistency does. Your mission is to build a system so robust and so ubiquitous that you are never ever without a way to capture a spark. You should have a notebook by your bed, because ideas love to visit in the middle of the night. You should have a waterproof notepad in your shower. You should have a system in your car. You should be like a spider, with strands of your web, your idea net, extending into every corner of your life. Now that you have your tools, what exactly should you be capturing? We've talked about ideas, but the net should be cast much wider than that. To truly build a rich reservoir of creative material, you need to become a collector of many things. Think of yourself as a mental beachcomber, walking along the shores of your daily life and picking up interesting shells. First, capture observations. These are small, specific details about the world around you that most people ignore. The way the light hits a building at a certain time of day. The strange way two people are interacting on the subway. A particularly clever bit of marketing in a shop window. These observations are the raw data of life. They are the building blocks of compelling stories, relatable characters, and insightful art. Second, capture questions. Whenever a question pops into your head, no matter how silly or profound, write it down. Why is the sky blue? What would a society without money look like? What am I most afraid of, and why? A good question is often more powerful than a good answer. Questions are the engines of curiosity. They are the starting point for every great investigation and every great invention. A notebook full of questions is a notebook full of adventures waiting to happen. Third, capture quotes. This could be a line you read in a book, a snippet of dialogue you overhear in a coffee shop, or a profound statement from a movie. Words are powerful. A well-phrased quote can encapsulate a complex idea in a beautiful, memorable way. Collecting them is like collecting perfectly sharpened tools that you can use in your own thinking and creating. Fourth, capture feelings and fragments. Sometimes what comes to you isn't a fully formed idea, but just a mood, an image, or a word. Maybe you just write down the word luminous because it feels right. Maybe you sketch a strange shape. Don't discount these. They are messages from your subconscious. They are often the seeds of your most original and personal work. By capturing not just ideas, but also observations, questions, quotes, and fragments, you are building what the writer and artist David Sedaris calls compost. You are gathering all the raw organic material of your daily life and putting it into a pile. You don't know exactly what it will become, but you trust that over time it will break down and decompose into rich, fertile soil from which amazing things can grow. We have covered the why, the what, and the how of capture. Now, it's time to put it into practice. It's time to stop just thinking about it and start doing it. This chapter's actionable takeaway is a direct challenge to you. I call it the 48-hour capture challenge. For the next 2 days, your single most important mission is to become a relentless, obsessive, unapologetic idea hunter. Here are the rules. 1. Choose your primary capture tool. It can be a brand new pocket notebook or a simple app on your phone. Make your choice and commit to it. 2. This tool must be with you at all times. When you go to the kitchen to get a glass of water, it comes with you. When you go to the bathroom, it comes with you. When you go to sleep, it sits on your nightstand, open to a blank page. For 48 hours, it is an extension of your body. 3. You must live by the golden rule. Capture now, judge later. The moment a thought enters your mind, an idea, a question, an observation, a silly joke, a worry, a to-do item, anything, it gets captured. No exceptions, no judgment. Your goal is not quality. Your goal is quantity. Your target is to fill at least 2 pages of your notebook, or to create at least 20 new individual notes in your app. Aim for more. This will feel weird at first. You will feel self-conscious. You will feel like you have nothing to write. Push through that. Start by describing the room you are in. Write down what you had for lunch. The goal is to get the pen moving, to get your fingers typing. You are building a new neural pathway, creating a new habit. You are training your brain to know that there is a safe and reliable place for its thoughts to go. At the end of these 48 hours, I want you to do one simple thing. Look at your harvest. Don't analyze it yet. Don't evaluate it. Just look at the sheer volume of thoughts that you successfully pulled from the ether and made real. Look at the raw, messy, beautiful potential you have collected. That is the feeling of having a working idea net. It is the feeling of safety, of potential, of knowing that the ghosts of your forgotten ideas will haunt you no more. This is the first and most critical operational habit of a creative life. Master it and you will never be without a starting point again. Chapter 5. The Idea Machine. Techniques for Active Generation. Welcome back. In our last chapter, we forged our idea net. You have committed to the sacred practice of capturing every spark, of ensuring that no fleeting thought is ever lost to the ether again. You have your notebook or your app, and you are building a rich compost pile of observations, questions, and fragments. You have become an expert at catching the creative fish that happen to swim by. This is a monumental achievement, and it alone will transform your creative life. But now, we must ask a crucial question. What happens when the fish aren't swimming by? What happens on those days when you feel empty, when the well of inspiration feels dry? What happens when you have a deadline, a specific problem to solve, and you cannot afford to simply wait for an idea to graciously appear? If the last chapter was about learning to be a hunter and gatherer of ideas, this chapter is about learning to be a farmer. A hunter waits for the game to appear. A farmer cultivates the soil and plants the seeds to create a predictable, reliable harvest. This chapter is about turning you into an idea farmer. We are going to move from passive capture to active generation. We are going to give you a set of powerful tools, a series of mental engines that you can turn on whenever you want to generate new ideas on demand. This is where we move from hoping for creativity to engineering it. These are not magic tricks. They are creative calisthenics, structured exercises designed to force your brain out of its usual lazy patterns of thought and into new, unexplored territory. They are the workouts for your creative muscle. The more you practice them, the stronger, faster, and more reliable that muscle will become. By the end of this chapter, you will no longer see a blank page as a terrifying void. You will see it as a playground, a laboratory, a space where you have a whole toolbox of powerful machines ready to help you build something from nothing. Before we fire up these machines, we must install the fundamental operating system upon which they all run. It is the single most important mindset for any brainstorming session, and it is the direct extension of our capture now, judge later rule. The principle is this: quantity breeds quality. Let me be very clear. When your goal is to generate new ideas, your target is not one good idea. Your target is 100 ideas. Most of them will be bad, some will be mediocre, a few will be interesting, and 1 or 2 might just be brilliant. But you cannot get to the brilliant ones without first wading through the muck of the bad ones. The pursuit of quality at the beginning of the process is the killer of all creativity. It creates a state of paralysis. We sit there waiting for the perfect, fully formed idea to arrive, and because it never does, we conclude that we are not creative. This is like a baseball player refusing to swing at any pitch that he doesn't know, for a fact, will be a home run. He would never swing. He would strike out every single time. A great hitter gets famous for getting a hit just 3 or 4 times out of every 10 at bats. They have to be willing to swing and miss over and over again. Brainstorming is the act of swinging. You must give yourself permission to swing wildly, to miss and to look foolish. I want you to imagine a tale of 2 pottery classes. This is a real-life story from the book Art and Fear by David Bales and Ted Orland. A ceramics teacher divided his class into 2 groups. The group on the left side of the studio, he announced, would be graded solely on the quantity of work they produced. On the final day of class, he would bring in a scale and weigh their pots. 50 pounds of pots would get an A, 40 pounds a B, and so on. The group on the right side of the studio, however, would be graded only on quality. They needed to produce only 1 single pot during the semester, but it had to be a perfect pot. At the end of the term, a fascinating result emerged. The works of highest quality, the most beautiful and perfect pots, all came from the group that was being graded for quantity. What happened? While the quality group was spending all their time theorizing about perfection, getting paralyzed by the high stakes of their 1 single pot, the quantity group was busy making pots. They were experimenting, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes and trying again. They were making hundreds of pots, and in the process of making hundreds of pots, they naturally and inevitably produced some masterpieces. They had learned more, practiced more, and taken more risks. The pursuit of quantity had led them directly to quality. This story must become your mantra. When you sit down to generate ideas, your goal is to make a lot of pots. Your goal is to fill the page. Your goal is to get a high number. This removes the pressure and liberates your mind. One of the simplest ways to put this into practice is with an exercise called free writing, or a brain dump. The instructions are simple. You choose a topic or a problem. You set a timer for 10 or 15 minutes, and for that entire time, you write without stopping. You do not lift the pen from the page or your fingers from the keyboard. You do not worry about spelling, grammar, or punctuation. You do not worry if your ideas are good or bad, or if they even make sense. If you run out of things to say, you literally write the words, "I have nothing to say, I have nothing to say," until a new thought emerges, and it always will. This exercise is a way of bypassing your inner critic, that internal editor, who is constantly trying to make everything neat and perfect. By forcing yourself to keep moving, you don't give the critic a chance to get a word in. You are simply opening a fire hydrant of thought and letting everything gush out. The vast majority of what you write will be useless. But somewhere in that deluge, there will be a sentence, a phrase, a single word that can serve as the starting point for something truly great. Now that we have our foundational mindset in place, quantity over quality, we can start to use some more structured idea generation engines. The first, and perhaps the most powerful in its simplicity, is a technique I call the what-if game. It consists of 2 of the most powerful words in the English language, what if. These 2 words are a magic key. They unlock the door of assumption and give you permission to step into the world of the impossible, the absurd, and the wonderful. Our brains are incredibly lazy. They love to operate on autopilot, following the same well-worn neural pathways day after day. The what-if game is a way of deliberately derailing your brain, of forcing it off the main road and into that overgrown forest of new possibilities we talked about in Chapter 1. The game is simple to play. You take any situation, any object, any problem, and you begin a sentence about it with "what if?" Then you let your mind complete the sentence, no matter how ridiculous it seems. Let's take something mundane, like a coffee shop. Our assumptions are that a coffee shop sells coffee, has tables and chairs, and plays quiet music. Now, let's attack those assumptions with what if. What if a coffee shop didn't sell coffee? What would it sell instead? Maybe it only sells exotic teas, or maybe it sells creative energy, and you pay for the time you spend there, not the drinks. What if a coffee shop had no tables or chairs? Maybe it has hammocks instead, or beanbags, or maybe it's standing room only, designed for quick, energetic conversations. What if a coffee shop was completely silent? Maybe it's a library for focused work where the coffee is just the fuel. What if a coffee shop was also a place to adopt shelter dogs? This single question sparked the creation of dog cafes that are now popular in many cities. This game can be applied to anything. If you are an artist struggling with a painting, ask, what if I used only one color? What if my paintbrush was 3 feet long? What if I painted this scene from the perspective of an ant? If you are an entrepreneur looking for a business idea, ask, what if shipping was always free? The idea behind Amazon Prime. What if our service was so good we didn't need a marketing budget? A focus on word of mouth. If you are feeling stuck in your personal life, ask, what if I took a different route to work every day for a month? What if I dedicated one evening a week to learning a skill I've always been curious about, like juggling or coding? You can make the game even more powerful by turning it into a what-if chain. You start with one question, and then your next question has to build on the answer to the first. It's a form of creative improvisation. Let's try it. Prompt: reinvent the library. What if a library didn't have any books? Okay, then what would it have? Maybe it has human books, where you can check out a person for 30 minutes and listen to their life story. Interesting. What if you could also publish your own story and become a human book? That's cool. What if the library was organized not by subject but by emotion? You could go to the lonely section to find stories from other people who have felt that way, or the inspired section to hear about people's greatest triumphs. Do you see how in just a few steps we've moved from a building full of paper to a dynamic community center for human connection and storytelling? The What If game is a simple, playful, and endlessly powerful engine for innovation. The story of Airbnb, now one of the largest hospitality companies in the world, began with a simple what if question. Two roommates, Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia, couldn't afford their rent in San Francisco. A big design conference was coming to town, and all the hotels were booked. They looked at their empty living room and asked, what if we rented out an air mattress on our floor to people who need a place to stay? It was a humble, almost silly idea, but it was the seed. They tested it, it worked, and that simple question blossomed into a global phenomenon that has changed the way we travel. Never underestimate the power of a simple, curious question. Our second idea generation engine is a technique I call the alchemist's secret. The medieval alchemists dreamed of turning common metals, like lead, into precious gold. This is the perfect metaphor for creativity. As we've discussed, no idea is truly original. Every new idea is a combination of existing elements. The alchemist's secret is the practice of intentionally combining two or more seemingly unrelated elements to see what new golden idea is created at their intersection. It is the art of forced connection. Your brain loves to categorize things and keep them in separate mental boxes. The business box is over here, the family box is over there, and the hobbies box is way over in the corner. This technique is about breaking open those boxes and deliberately smashing their contents together. The method is wonderfully simple. You can do it with a pen and paper. Create 2 columns. In the first column, list 10 things from one category. It could be anything: kitchen appliances, animals, jobs, emotions. In the second column, list 10 things from a completely different and unrelated category. Now your task is to randomly connect one item from the first list with one item from the second, and then ask yourself, what could this be? What new product, service, or story does this combination suggest? Let's try a real example. In column A, let's list technology. So we have smartphone, drone, 3D printer, virtual reality, artificial intelligence. In column B, let's list problems of old age. So we have loneliness, forgetting to take medication, fear of falling, difficulty with cooking, mobility issues. Now let's start combining. Smartphone plus loneliness. Maybe a super simple smartphone designed for seniors that has only one button, which connects them to a family member or a friendly volunteer for a chat. Drone plus forgetting medication. This sounds weird. But what if a small, quiet indoor drone was programmed to fly from the medicine cabinet to the senior's armchair at the exact time they need to take their pills, carrying the medication in a small basket. It turns a chore into a delightful, futuristic experience. Virtual reality plus mobility issues? This is a powerful one. What if seniors who can no longer travel could use VR headsets to revisit their childhood home, walk on their favorite beach, or attend a grandchild's wedding from the comfort of their chair? It's a tool for creating joy and connection. Do you see the magic here? By forcing these two unrelated concepts together, we are generating ideas that are not only creative, but are also potentially valuable and meaningful. This is not a random game. It is a structured process for innovation. You can make this even more playful with a technique I call the magazine mashup. Go to a newsstand and buy two magazines that have absolutely nothing to do with each other. For example, buy a copy of Car and Driver and a copy of Yoga Journal. Then go through them and start combining headlines, images, and concepts. The 200 horsepower V8 engine plus the art of mindful breathing. What could that be? Maybe it's a luxury car that has a built-in biofeedback system that helps you regulate your breathing to stay calm in traffic. Or maybe it's a high-performance driving school that incorporates mindfulness techniques to improve focus and reaction time. The combinations are endless, and the goal is not to find a perfect business idea on the first try. The goal is to train your brain to see connections everywhere, to break down the walls between categories, and to become a master alchemist who can turn the lead of the everyday into the gold of a new idea. The famous Reese's Peanut Butter Cup was born from this exact principle. One story says it was an accident at a factory where a worker carrying a chocolate bar tripped and fell into a vat of peanut butter. Whether the story is true or not, the principle is perfect. It's the collision of two common but separate things, chocolate and peanut butter, to create a third thing that is beloved by millions. Your job is to create those collisions on purpose. Now we arrive at our third and most systematic idea generation engine. If the what-if game is a playful key and idea combination is an alchemist's formula, then this next technique is a Swiss Army knife. It is a checklist of 7 different ways to transform any existing idea, product, or problem. It is an acronym called SCAMPER, and it was developed by an advertising executive named Alex Osborne, the man who popularized the term brainstorming and later refined by educator Bob Eberly. SCAMPER is a set of 7 verbs that prompt you to think differently. Let's break it down letter by letter, and we will use one simple everyday object as our test subject throughout, a simple wooden pencil. S stands for substitute. What can you substitute or swap? What parts of the pencil can be replaced? We could substitute the wood for recycled plastic or a flexible rubber. We could substitute the graphite lead for colored wax, making a crayon. We could substitute the eraser on the end for a small paintbrush or a stylus for a touchscreen. The act of substitution forces you to look at the component parts of an idea and imagine alternatives. C stands for combine. What can you combine with your idea? What can you merge it with? We could combine the pencil with a ruler by printing measurements along its side. We could combine it with a pen, creating one of those multifunction writing tools. We could combine it with a flashlight by putting a tiny LED on the end for writing in the dark. We could combine it with a seed so that when the pencil becomes too short to use, you can plant the stub in the ground and grow a plant. This is a real product, and it's a beautiful example of combining a tool with an ecological purpose. A stands for adapt. How can you adapt this idea for a different context or use? How can you make it more flexible? We could adapt the pencil for use by a carpenter by making it flat so it doesn't roll away. We could adapt it for an artist by creating a wide variety of lead hardnesses for shading. We could adapt the concept of a pencil to the digital world, which gives us the stylus for a tablet. M stands for modify, which also includes magnify and minify. How can you change the form or quality of your idea? Can you make it bigger or smaller? We could magnify the pencil to be a giant novelty prop for a party. We could minify it to be a tiny pencil that fits on a keychain or in a golf scorecard. We could modify the shape from a hexagon to a triangle for a more ergonomic grip. We could modify the lead to be erasable ink instead of graphite. P stands for put to another use. How can you use this idea in a new or unusual way? This is about looking beyond its intended purpose, You could use a pencil as a makeshift hairpin. You could use a handful of pencils as a minimalist sculpture. You could use the shavings from sharpening a pencil as confetti or art material. You could use a pencil to push a hard-to-reach reset button on an electronic device. E stands for eliminate. What can you remove or simplify? What is non-essential? This is a powerful prompt for innovation. What if we eliminated the wood? We would be left with a solid stick of graphite, which is a tool that artists use called a graphite stick. What if we eliminated the eraser? Many high-end pencils come without one. What if we eliminated the need to sharpen it? This leads directly to the invention of the mechanical pencil. R stands for reverse or rearrange. How can you turn the idea inside out or upside down? Can you change the order of its components? What if the pencil erased from the tip and wrote from the end with the eraser? What if the lead was on the outside and the wood was on the inside? That's a strange thought, but it might lead to something. What if instead of the pencil moving on the paper moved under a fixed pencil? This is the principle behind a plotter or a seismograph. By systematically going through this Scamper checklist, you have taken a simple object, the pencil, and generated dozens of new possibilities and innovations. You have looked at it from every conceivable angle. This is a tool you can apply to anything. Are you stuck on a business process? Run it through Scamper. Are you trying to write a new chapter for your book? Run the plot through Scamper. Are you looking for a solution to a personal problem? Run the problem through Scamper. It is a universal problem-solving and idea generation framework. It is your reliable, all-purpose machine for getting unstuck. We have now armed you with a formidable arsenal of creative tools. You have the foundational mindset of quantity over quality. You have the playful, assumption-breaking power of the what-if game. You have the alchemical magic of idea combination, and you have the systematic, rigorous engine of Scamper. You are no longer a passive bystander waiting for inspiration. You are an active, powerful creator, equipped with the machinery to build ideas whenever you need them. This brings us to your final actionable challenge for this chapter. It is time to turn these machines on and take them for a spin. I call this the 10-minute idea sprint. The goal is to make this practice of active generation a quick, easy, and repeatable habit. Here is your mission. First, choose one of the techniques we discussed in this chapter. Just one. Don't try to do them all at once. Maybe today you'll choose the what-if game. Second, choose a simple, low-stakes prompt. It could be reinvent the umbrella, or a new flavor of ice cream, or a solution for finding lost keys. Keep it simple and fun. Third, set a timer for exactly 10 minutes. No more. The short time limit is crucial. It adds a sense of urgency and prevents your inner critic from getting too comfortable. Fourth, for those 10 minutes, your only goal is to fill a page of your notebook with as many ideas as possible using your chosen technique. Do not stop, do not judge, do not edit. Embrace the bad ideas, celebrate the silly ones. Your goal is volume. It's a sprint, not a marathon. I want you to do this once a day for the next 7 days. Each day you can choose a different technique or a different prompt. 10 minutes a day, that's it. It's a tiny investment of time, but the returns will be enormous. You will be training your idea muscle, making it stronger, faster, and more responsive. You will be building a massive reserve of raw material that you can draw upon for your future projects. Most importantly, you will be proving to yourself through direct experience that you are an idea machine. You will be destroying the myth of the uninspired day once and for all. You will know with unshakable confidence that you have the power to unlock your creativity and generate brilliant ideas on demand. Chapter 6. From Spark to Flame. How to choose and develop an idea. Welcome back to your creative awakening. We have traveled a remarkable distance together. We began by tearing down the ancient, crumbling walls of myth that told you creativity was a gift for a select few. We then ventured into the inner world of your own mind, discovering the beautiful and powerful dance between the focused taskmaster and the diffuse daydreamer. We learned to become intentional gardeners of our creative ecosystem, cultivating the physical and digital spaces around us to be fertile ground for new growth. We forged our idea net, the sacred and unbreakable habit of capturing every spark, ensuring no thought would ever be lost again. And in our last chapter, we fired up the great engines of active generation, learning to use powerful techniques like the what-if game and scamper to become idea farmers capable of producing a harvest on demand. If you have followed the journey so far, you are likely facing a new and wonderful kind of problem. You are no longer staring at a terrifyingly blank page. You are now staring at a page that is gloriously, chaotically, and perhaps even overwhelmingly full. You have lists of ideas. You have notebooks filled with questions and observations. You have a harvest. This is a moment to be celebrated. You have successfully moved from a state of scarcity to a state of abundance. You have proven to yourself that you are not someone who lacks ideas. You are an idea factory, and business is booming. But with this success comes a new challenge, a high-quality problem that can be just as paralyzing as the blank page. It is the paradox of choice. When you have 100 different roads you could travel, how do you choose which one to take? Choosing one means for the moment saying no to 99 others. The fear of making the wrong choice, of picking the dud and letting the genius idea go, can be so intense that we end up choosing nothing at all. We stand at the crossroads, frozen by possibility. This chapter is your guide through that crossroads. If our work until now has been about learning to be a prospector, sifting through the river of consciousness to find every potential nugget, our work now is to become a jeweler. A jeweler knows that not every rock that glitters is gold. They have a trained eye. They know how to separate the worthless pebbles from the promising stones. They know how to examine a raw gem from every angle to assess its potential. And they know how to make the first decisive cut to begin revealing the beauty within. Our goal in this chapter is to give you that jeweler's eye. We will build a systematic, reliable, and surprisingly simple process for sorting through your mountain of raw ideas, selecting the one with the most promise, and beginning the crucial work of developing it from a fleeting spark into a steady, growing flame. This is the bridge from the chaotic world of brainstorming to the focused world of creating. It is the moment we choose our path and take our first confident step. The very first step in this process is perhaps the most counterintuitive, and it requires a small act of faith. It is the cool-down period. After an exhilarating session of brainstorming, after you have filled a page with dozens of new ideas, your immediate impulse will be to scan the list and pick the winner. You are on a creative high. Your brain is buzzing with dopamine and excitement. The ideas feel fresh, brilliant, and full of potential. This feeling is wonderful, but it is also a terrible state in which to make a rational decision. At the moment of its birth, you are in love with your idea, you are infatuated. This is known as the endowment effect, a cognitive bias where we place a much higher value on things we have created or own. In this state, every idea looks like a genius. You have no perspective. You are too close to it to see its flaws, its weaknesses, or its true nature. You must force yourself to walk away. The jeweler does not immediately cut a stone the moment it is pulled from the earth. They clean it, they study it, they live with it. You must do the same. This means creating a mandatory cooling-off period of at least 24 hours, and ideally 2 or 3 days. Put the notebook away in a drawer. Close the digital file and move it to a folder you won't open. You must physically and mentally separate yourself from your raw ideas. What does this do? It allows the emotional infatuation to fade. It allows the dopamine high to subside. It lets the limbic system, the emotional part of your brain that was so active during creation, to quiet down, and allows the prefrontal cortex, the seat of your rational judgment and executive function, to come back online. Think of it like baking bread. After you have kneaded the dough, you cannot immediately put it in the oven. You must let it rest. You must let it rise. During this resting period, a quiet, invisible magic is happening. The yeast is fermenting, the gluten is relaxing, the dough is developing the structure and flavor it needs to become a delicious loaf. Your ideas need that same resting period. You need to let them rise in the quiet incubator of your subconscious mind. When you return to them a day or two later, you will see them with fresh eyes. The emotional attachment will be gone. Some ideas that seemed brilliant at the time will now look silly. Others that seemed mediocre might reveal a hidden depth. You have gained the most critical tool for evaluation: perspective. This is not procrastination. It is a deliberate and essential part of the creative process. Now that you have returned to your list with a clear head and a calm heart, it is time to begin the triage process. We need to filter the signal from the noise. The worst possible question you can ask yourself at this stage is this a good idea? That question is a trap. It's too big, too vague, and too loaded with pressure. Good according to whom? Good for what purpose? It invites your inner critic to the party and leads to instant paralysis. We need a better set of questions. We need a filtering system that breaks the vague concept of good into more specific, more measurable, and more useful components. We are going to build a simple but profoundly effective three-filter system. Think of it as a three-stage quality control process for your idea factory. It will assess each idea based on your heart, your head, and your hands. The first filter, and it must always be the first, is the excitement filter. This is the filter of the heart. The question you must ask is not, is this a good idea? But rather, does this idea light me up? You will take each idea on your list one by one and give it an excitement score on a scale of 1 to 10. A 1 means, this feels like a boring chore. A 10 means, I can't stop thinking about this. I feel a physical pull towards it. I would work on this for free on a Saturday night. This is not a logical assessment. It is a gut check. It is an emotional and visceral reaction. Why is this the most important filter? Because any creative project of any real significance will require an enormous amount of energy to bring to life. There will be moments of doubt. There will be technical hurdles. There will be setbacks. There will be long, lonely hours of work where no one is cheering you on. The only fuel that is powerful enough to get you through those inevitable dark times is your own deep intrinsic motivation. It is your passion. If you choose an idea because you think it's what you should do, or because you think it will make a lot of money, or because you think it will impress other people, you are building your house on a foundation of sand. The first strong wind will blow it over. But if you choose an idea that you are genuinely, deeply, and perhaps even irrationally excited about, you are building on bedrock. Your passion will be your engine when your willpower runs out. It will be your light in the darkness. Think of the story of Van Gogh. During his lifetime, he was a commercial failure. He sold almost no paintings. He was ridiculed by critics and lived in poverty. If he had been guided by external metrics of success, he would have quit after a few months. But he was driven by an intense, burning internal fire. He was obsessed with capturing the light and color he saw in the world. His excitement score for painting was an 11 out of 10. That passion is what allowed him to endure a decade of rejection and create a body of work that would change art forever. You must find your personal version of that fire. Do not discount an idea just because it seems small or quirky. Sometimes the strangest, most personal ideas are the ones that contain the most energy. Be brutally honest with yourself during this filtering stage. Your excitement is your most precious creative resource. Do not invest it in a project that does not deserve it. Once you have rated all your ideas on the excitement filter, you can move to the second stage. This is the impact filter. This is the filter of the head. Now that you've listened to your heart, it's time to engage your rational mind. For each idea, you will ask the question, what is the potential impact of this idea and who is it for? Then you will give it an impact score on a scale of 1 to 10. A 1 means, this has virtually no effect on anyone, including myself. A 10 means, this has the potential to fundamentally solve a major problem or create immense joy for a large group of people. This filter forces you to think beyond your own excitement and consider the value your idea creates in the world. Impact can come in many different forms, and it's important to define what it means for you. For some projects, the impact might be purely personal. The idea of learning to play the guitar might have a huge personal impact on your own happiness and self-esteem, even if you never play for anyone else. That is a valid and worthy impact. For other projects, the impact is external. An idea for a new business or a non-profit is measured by the value it provides to its customers or its community. An idea for a novel is measured by the emotional and intellectual impact it has on its readers. When you are scoring your ideas on this filter, be clear about who the customer is. Is it you? Is it your family? Is it a specific niche community? Is it the world? An idea for an app that helps your elderly parents remember their medication might have a lower score on a global scale, but a 10 out of 10 impact score for its intended audience of 2 people. Be specific. Thinking about the impact and the audience from the very beginning will give your idea a sense of purpose and direction. It transforms it from a self-indulgent whim into a mission. It answers the crucial question, why does this need to exist? An idea that has both a high excitement score and a high impact score is a powerful combination of passion and purpose. This is where magic starts to happen. Finally, after assessing the heart and the head, we must consult the hands. This is the third and final filter, the feasibility filter. This is the reality check. For each idea, you will ask the question, with my current resources, how realistic is it for me to take the first meaningful step? Then you will give it a feasibility score on a scale of 1 to 10. A1 means, I have absolutely no idea how to start, and I would need $1 million and a team of experts. A 10 means, I know exactly what the first step is, and I can do it this afternoon with the tools I already have. This is arguably the most misunderstood filter. Many people see it as a negative, pessimistic step designed to kill your big dreams. It is exactly the opposite. This filter is not about asking, can I complete this entire massive project? That question is terrifying and will result in a score of 0 for any ambitious idea. The feasibility filter is about momentum. It is about the power of the first step. The wording is crucial. How realistic is it for me to take the first meaningful step? Let's say you have two ideas. Idea A is to write a Hollywood blockbuster screenplay. Idea B is to write a short 10-minute play and perform it for a few friends in your living room. For idea A, the first meaningful step is incredibly daunting. You might need to buy expensive software, read a dozen books on screenwriting, and clear your schedule for months. The feasibility score is low, maybe a 2 or a 3. For idea B, the first step is simple. You can open a blank document and start writing dialogue. You can text your friends to see if they're interested. The feasibility score is high, maybe a 9 or a 10. This does not mean that idea A is a bad idea. It just means that idea B is a better place to start. Creativity thrives on momentum. Small wins build confidence. By choosing an idea where the first step is easy and achievable, you are setting yourself up for a virtuous cycle. You take the first step, you feel a sense of accomplishment, which gives you the energy to take the second step, and so on. The feasibility filter is your best friend in the fight against procrastination. It steers you toward the project that will get you out of the planning stage and into the doing stage as quickly as possible. Now you have your system. For every idea on your list, you have 3 numbers: an excitement score, an impact score, and a feasibility score. You can now simply add up the scores for each idea. This is not a perfect scientific formula that will spit out the one true answer. It is a tool for clarifying your own thinking. It makes the invisible visible. When you look at your list of final scores, a few ideas will almost certainly rise to the top. You might have one clear winner, or you might have a top 2 or 3 that are very close. This is the moment of decision. Trust the process, trust the scores, and choose one. Just one. But what about all the other ideas? What about the ones that scored well but didn't make the final cut? The fear of letting them go can be a major source of anxiety. This is why the next step is so important. You must create an idea vault. Your idea vault is a dedicated, safe, and honored place where you will store all your runner-up ideas. It can be a separate notebook, a specific folder on your computer, or a physical box filled with index cards. The name is important. It is not an idea graveyard. It is not a trash bin. It is a vault. A vault protects valuable things for the future. By creating a vault, you are telling yourself that these ideas are not being rejected. They are being archived. They are being cryogenically frozen, waiting for the right moment to be revived. This practice is psychologically powerful for several reasons. First, it frees you from the fear of missing out. You are not saying no to these ideas forever. You are just saying not now. This makes it much easier to commit your full energy and focus to your chosen idea because you know the others are safe. Second, your idea vault will become one of your most valuable creative assets over time. It is a personalized library of your own thinking. There will be times in the future when you finish a project and are looking for what's next. You can go to your vault and find a treasure trove of starting points. Third, an idea that is not feasible for you today might be perfectly feasible for you in 5 years. You might acquire new skills, new resources, or new connections that suddenly make an old idea possible. Or you might pull 2 separate ideas from your vault and realize that their combination is the brilliant idea you've been looking for. So before you move on, take the time to create your vault. Write down or transfer your other promising ideas into it. Give them a home, thank them for their service, and then gently close the door. Now your mind is clear, focused, and ready to develop the one you have chosen. You have your one idea. It has survived the cool down period. It has passed through the 3 filters. It stands alone, full of potential, but it is still just a spark, a one-line concept. Our next task is to give it substance, to turn it from a spark into a flame. We need to explore it, understand it, and see its shape. The single best tool for this is the mind map. A mind map is a visual diagram used to organize information. Unlike a linear list, which forces your brain to think in a straight line, a mind map radiates out from a central point, mirroring the way your brain actually makes connections. It is a perfect tool for exploring a new idea in a non-judgmental, free-flowing way. The process is simple and even fun. Take the largest piece of paper you can find and a pen, or use a digital mind mapping tool if you prefer. Write your chosen idea in the very center of the page and draw a circle around it. This is your core. Now you are going to radiate out from that core with the big universal questions: who, what, why, where, when, and how. For each question, draw a line out from the center and write the question at the end of it. These are your main branches. Let's start with why. This is the soul of your project. On this branch, brainstorm all the reasons this idea needs to exist. Connect back to your excitement and impact scores. Why are you passionate about it? What problem does it solve? What joy does it create? What is the core message or feeling you want to convey? Don't censor yourself. Just write down everything that comes to mind. This branch will become your North Star, the thing you return to when you lose your way. Next, move to the who branch. Who is this for? Who is your audience, your user, your customer, your reader? Be as specific as you can. Everyone is not an audience. Is it for young mothers? Is it for retired engineers? Is it for people who love science fiction but hate sad endings? Try to sketch out a mini persona of your ideal user. Give them a name. What are their hopes, their fears, their daily struggles? The more clearly you can picture the who, the more focused your creative decisions will become. You are no longer creating in a vacuum, you are creating for someone. Now, the what branch. This is the substance of the idea. What are its features? What are its main components if it's a book? What are the main characters and plot points? If it's an app, what are the 3 key screens or functions? If it's a song, what is the chorus, the verse, the bridge? Don't worry about getting it perfect. Just get the big building blocks down. Then, the how branch. This is the logistics. How will it work? What skills will you need? What resources will you need to acquire? Do you need to learn a new piece of software? Do you need to do research on a specific topic? This branch connects back to your feasibility score and helps you create a concrete list of learning objectives and resource needs. Finally, the where and when branches. Where will this project live in the world? Is it a physical object, a digital product, a live performance? When will you work on it? What is the very first tiny concrete step you can take to move forward? What is the second step? This branch turns your grand idea into an actionable project plan. As you fill out these main branches, new ideas and subtopics will emerge. Just add new, smaller branches wherever they fit. A good mind map looks like a neuron or a tree with connections spreading out in every direction. The process of creating it is an act of discovery. By the time you are finished, you will have transformed a simple one-line idea into a rich, multifaceted concept map. You will see its strengths, its weaknesses, and the connections between its different parts. It is your first blueprint. To make the idea even more real, I encourage you to create a simple, low-fidelity prototype. This is not about building the final product. It is about creating the simplest possible model of your idea to make it tangible. If your idea is an app, sketch out the 3 main screens on index cards. If it's a physical product, build a model out of cardboard and tape. If it's a book, write a one-page summary or the first paragraph. If it's a business, write a back-of-the-napkin business plan. This shitty first draft, as author Anne Lamott would call it, is incredibly valuable. It forces you to make concrete decisions. It takes the idea out of the fuzzy world of your imagination and places it into the real world. It gives you something you can look at, hold, and even show to someone else for early feedback. You have traveled so far in this chapter. You started with a chaotic mountain of possibility and have ended with a single chosen path, a blueprint in hand, and the first tangible model of your creation. You are no longer standing at the crossroads. You are walking. You have momentum. This brings us to our final empowering action for this chapter. I want you to create your concept dossier. A dossier is a collection of documents about a particular subject. Your concept dossier is the official starting file for your new project. It will contain 3 things. First, the one-line description of your chosen idea and its final scores from your 3-filter system. This reminds you why you chose it. Second, your detailed mind map. This is your blueprint. Third, your simple, low-fidelity prototype or sketch. This is your proof of concept. Put these 3 things together in a physical folder or a digital one. This is your launch kit. It is the culmination of all your work so far. It is the solid foundation upon which you will build your masterpiece. You have successfully turned a fleeting spark into a steady, burning flame. Now, in our next chapter, we must talk about the inevitable winds that will try to blow that flame out. We will learn to face the dragon that guards the cave of creation, the dreaded creative block. Chapter 7. The Dragon in the Cave, Conquering Creative Blocks. Welcome back, creator. A powerful shift has occurred in your journey. You have made a decision. You have a chosen idea, a concept dossier, a blueprint. The abstract has become concrete. You are filled with a sense of purpose and excitement. You sit down to do the work. You open your notebook. You fire up your laptop. You pick up your tools. You are ready to build. And then, it happens. Nothing. The words don't come. The design looks wrong. The chord progression sounds clumsy. A thick, grey fog descends upon your mind. The vibrant energy you felt just yesterday has been replaced by a heavy, anxious silence. A voice, a small, insidious whisper in the back of your head begins to speak. This is a stupid idea, it says. You're not good enough to do this. You're going to fail. Everyone is going to laugh at you. And just like that, you are frozen. You are stuck. You have come face to face with the most feared and misunderstood monster in the creative world, the creative block. I want you to imagine that your finished creative work, your masterpiece, is a great treasure. It lies waiting for you in a deep, glittering cave. But guarding the entrance to that cave, there is a dragon. This dragon is terrifying. It has fiery breath, impenetrable scales, and a gaze that can paralyze you with fear. This dragon is your creative block. For centuries, the myth we have been told is that to get the treasure, we must be a heroic knight. We must sharpen our sword, ride forth into battle, and slay the dragon. But this myth is a lie, and it is a lie that has caused countless creative quests to end in failure. Why? Because the dragon is not an external enemy. The dragon is a part of you. The dragon's fiery breath is your fear of failure. Its impenetrable scales are your perfectionism. Its paralyzing gaze is your self-doubt. To try and slay the dragon is to try and slay a part of yourself. It is a battle you can never win. You will only exhaust yourself and end up defeated, convinced that you are not worthy of the treasure. The purpose of this chapter is to offer you a new way. We are not going to slay the dragon. We are going to tame it. We will learn to understand its language, to anticipate its movements, and to recognize that its fearsome roar is often far worse than its bite. We will learn that the dragon's presence is not a sign that you should turn back. The dragon's presence is a sign that you are in the right place. Dragons do not guard empty caves. They only guard caves that contain treasure. The fear you feel is a compass. It is pointing you directly towards the work that matters most to you. So let us light a torch, take a deep breath, and step into the mouth of the cave. It is time to meet your dragon. The first and most powerful step in taming any monster is to give it a name and a face. The formless, nameless fear that we call creative block has immense power over us because it feels like it is us. The negative voice in our head feels like our own true voice. The act of personifying this voice, of externalizing it into a distinct character, is a profoundly effective psychological technique. It separates you from the fear. It allows you to see the dragon as a separate entity that you can observe, question, and even feel a little bit of compassion for instead of being consumed by it. So right now I want you to perform a simple act of imagination. I want you to meet your inner critic, your personal dragon. Give it a form. What does it look like? Is it a grumpy, tweed-wearing professor with a red pen, constantly looking for flaws? Is it a slimy, cackling little gremlin that whispers insults from your shoulder? Is it a perfectly dressed, judgmental socialite who is always worried about what other people will think? Get specific. Then, give it a name. Don't give it a scary, powerful name like the Destroyer. Give it a mundane, slightly silly name. Call it Nigel, or Brenda, or Gary. My own inner critic is a perpetually disappointed middle-aged man named Stan who wears beige cardigans and sighs a lot. Why does this seemingly childish exercise work? Because it robs the voice of its authority. It is very hard to be paralyzed by fear when the source of that fear is a beige cardigan-wearing man named Stan. When you sit down to work and the voice starts its litany of negativity, "This is terrible, you're a fraud," you no longer have to internalize it as your own truth. You can simply turn to your imaginary companion and say, "Thanks for sharing, Stan, but I'm a little busy right now. I'll get back to you later." Or, "That's an interesting point, Brenda. Duly noted." You are acknowledging the voice without obeying it. You are treating it like a slightly annoying but ultimately harmless roommate. This simple act of naming and externalizing your inner critic is your first lesson in dragon taming. You have taken the formless, terrifying roar of fear and reduced it to the nagging complaints of Stan. You have already reclaimed a massive amount of power. Now that we have met our dragon, let's perform an anatomy lesson. Creative block is a catch-all term, but it is actually comprised of several distinct types of fear. Like a doctor diagnosing an illness, if we can identify the specific flavor of fear we are experiencing, we can apply the right medicine. Let's dissect the 3 most common fears that make up the anatomy of your dragon. The first and most obvious is the fear of failure. This is the dragon's fiery breath, the scorching fear that your work will be bad, that you will fall short, that you will invest all this time and energy for nothing. It is the fear of looking stupid. This fear is rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of what failure is. We tend to see creativity as a pass-fail test. Either you create a masterpiece or you have failed. This is a brutal and unproductive way to live. We must reframe our definition of failure. In the world of creativity and innovation, failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is a necessary ingredient of success. Failure is not an outcome, it is data. Think of a scientist in a laboratory. She has a hypothesis. She runs an experiment to test it. The experiment does not produce the result she expected. Does she crumple up her notes, declare herself a failed scientist and quit her job? Of course not. She says, "Fascinating. The experiment has not failed. It has successfully shown her one way that does not work." This information is incredibly valuable. It narrows down the possibilities and points her in a new direction. She has learned something. The only true failure in science is an experiment that teaches you nothing. We must adopt this same scientist's mindset for our creative work. Every failed chapter you write, every bad painting you paint, is not a failure. It is an experiment that is giving you valuable data. It is teaching you what doesn't work. It is honing your skills. It is moving you one step closer to what does work. The story of James Dyson, which we touched upon briefly before, is the ultimate testament to this principle. He wanted to create a better vacuum cleaner. He created 5,126 prototypes that did not work before he landed on the one that did. If he had defined each of those prototypes as a failure, he would have quit after the first dozen, but he didn't. He saw each one as a learning opportunity. He embraced the process of iteration. He understood that the path to success was paved with thousands of failures. Your creative journey is no different. You must give yourself permission to create 5,126 bad versions of your idea. Your worth as a person is not tied to the outcome of your creative experiment. You are the scientist, not the experiment. By adopting this mindset, you take the heat out of the dragon's fiery breath. Failure is no longer a terrifying monster. It is simply a helpful, if sometimes frustrating, teacher. The second form of fear is far more subtle and surprising. It is the fear of success. This may sound absurd. Who would be afraid of succeeding? But this fear is very real, and for many people, it is even more paralyzing than the fear of failure. The dragon does not just guard the entrance to the cave, it also hoards the treasure inside. The fear of success is the fear of actually getting that treasure. It manifests as a series of what-if questions. What if this book is a hit? Then everyone will expect me to write another one that's just as good. The pressure will be immense. What if my business takes off? My life will change. I'll have to hire people, manage a budget, and work 80 hours a week. What if people actually love my art? It will mean I'm a real artist, and I'm terrified I won't be able to live up to that label. This is the heart of imposter syndrome. It is the fear of being seen, the fear of new responsibilities, and the fear of the expectations that come with success. And so, subconsciously, we sabotage ourselves. We procrastinate. We miss deadlines. We find excuses not to finish the project, because as long as it is unfinished, we are safe from the terrifying burdens of success. The antidote to the fear of success is to practice radical presence. The fear of success is always a fear of the future. It's a fear of a hypothetical set of problems that do not exist yet. You are being tormented by ghosts of a future you haven't even created. You must bring your focus back to the here and now. Your job is not to write a best-selling trilogy. Your job is not to build a Fortune 500 company. Your job is not to become a world-renowned artist. Your job right now in this moment is to write one good sentence. Your job is to make one phone call. Your job is to mix one color on your palette. You must shrink your focus down to the smallest possible unit of work. When you feel the anxiety of future expectations creeping in, you must gently guide your attention back to the task at hand. The writer E.L. Doctorow once said that writing a novel is like driving a car at night. You can only see as far as your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way. You do not need to see the destination. You only need to see the next 10 feet of road. By focusing only on the immediate, tangible task, you starve the fear of success of the oxygen it needs to survive. The third and most common fear is the fear of judgment. This is the social fear. This is the dragon's 1,000 eyes, watching your every move. It is the worry about what other people will think. What will my parents say? What will my friends think? What if my colleagues see this and think it's weird? What if I post it online and anonymous strangers leave cruel comments? Humans are social creatures. Our deepest, most primal need is for belonging. The fear of being judged, ridiculed, or cast out of the tribe is a powerful, deep-seated fear. And when you create something personal and share it with the world, you are making yourself vulnerable. You are opening yourself up to potential judgment. It's no wonder this fear can be so paralyzing. There are two powerful weapons against the fear of judgment. The first is a dose of psychological reality called the spotlight effect. We tend to walk through the world feeling as though there is a giant spotlight on us, illuminating our every action and flaw for all to see. The truth is, everyone else is too busy worrying about the spotlight on them. People are, for the most part, wrapped up in their own lives, their own problems, and their own insecurities. They are not thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are. Realizing this is incredibly liberating. You are not the main character in everyone else's movie. You are a background extra, at best. This understanding can shrink the 1,000-eyed dragon down to just a few sleepy lizards. The second weapon is to consciously curate whose opinion you actually care about. Not all opinions are created equal. The author and researcher Brené Brown often quotes a famous speech by Theodore Roosevelt called "The Man in the Arena." Roosevelt says that credit belongs not to the critic, but to the person who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. The person who is striving, who is daring greatly, who may fail, but who is at least trying. The opinions of the people sitting in the cheap seats, The ones who are not taking any risks themselves but are happy to shout criticism do not matter. Their opinions are worthless. I want you to take this to heart and perform a simple exercise. Take out a piece of paper and write down the names of 2 to 5 people who are in the arena with you. These are people you trust, who you respect, and who have earned the right to have an opinion on your work because they understand the vulnerability of creating. This is your board of directors. These are the only people whose feedback you will actively seek and consider. Everyone else's opinion, it's just noise. It's the meaningless roar of a dragon you no longer have to listen to. These 3 fears, failure, success, and judgment, are the core of the dragon. But there is one specific behavior, one powerful habit, that acts as the very bedrock upon which the dragon builds its lair. That behavior is perfectionism. We tend to think of perfectionism as a positive trait, a sign of high standards. In reality, perfectionism is the most insidious and destructive force in the creative process. Perfectionism is not about creating something great. Perfectionism is a shield. It is a defense mechanism we use to protect ourselves from all the fears we just discussed. A perfectionist thinks, if I can just make this perfect, then no one can criticize it. If it's perfect, it can't fail. But since nothing can ever be truly perfect, the perfectionist never finishes anything. And if you never finish, you can never be judged. If you never finish, you can never fail. Perfectionism is a gilded cage. It feels safe and noble, but it keeps you from ever flying. You must wage a deliberate and constant war against perfectionism. Your new mantra, your battle cry must be this: done is better than perfect. Say it out loud. Write it on a sticky note and put it on your computer. Tattoo it on your arm if you have to. It is the most liberating phrase in the creative lexicon. The goal is not to produce a flawless masterpiece on the first try. The goal is to get it done. The goal is to ship it, a term borrowed from the software industry that means releasing your product to the world. You must embrace the idea of version 1.0. Version 1.0 is not perfect. It has bugs, it has flaws, but it exists. And because it exists, it can be improved. You can release version 1.1 and version 2.0, but you can never improve a project that is sitting unfinished on your hard drive. The most powerful practical technique for defeating perfectionism is to embrace what the writer Anne Lamott calls the shitty first draft. You must give yourself explicit permission for the first version of your work to be absolutely terrible. The only purpose of a first draft is to exist. It is to get the clay onto the table. It's messy, it's misshapen, it's embarrassing. That's fine, because once the clay is on the table, you can start to shape it. You can edit, you can refine, you can polish. The magic is in the revision. But you cannot revise a blank page. So when you sit down to work, tell yourself, my only goal for the next hour is to produce the shittiest first draft the world has ever seen. This lowers the stakes to 0. It transforms the terrifying pressure of creating a masterpiece into a playful game of making a glorious mess. And it is in that mess that all great work begins. We have now met the dragon, dissected its anatomy, and understood its favorite weapon. We have the mindset and the reframes to face our fears. But sometimes, even with the best mindset, we just get stuck. The wheels are spinning, but there's no traction. For these moments, we need a practical, tactical toolbox of block-busting techniques. These are simple physical actions you can take to change your state and get the creative juices flowing again. I want you to think of this as your dragon-taming emergency kit. Let's start with the tools that change your physical state. Your mind and your body are not separate entities. They are a deeply interconnected system. Sometimes the fastest way to change your mind is to change what you are doing with your body. The first and most effective tool is the walk. When you feel stuck, do not stare harder at the screen. That is like pressing the accelerator when your car is stuck in the mud. Get up, leave the room, and go for a 15-minute walk, preferably outside in nature. The rhythmic bilateral movement of walking has been shown to help integrate the left and right hemispheres of your brain. The gentle sensory input of the outdoors shifts you into the diffuse mode. It is a neurological reset button. The second tool is the shower. The combination of warm water, a relaxed state, and a lack of distraction makes the shower a world-class idea generator. If you're stuck, Sometimes a quick shower is the most productive thing you can do. A third physical tool is to simply do a mundane, repetitive task with your hands. Wash the dishes, fold the laundry, weed the garden. These tasks occupy your focused mind just enough to stop it from spinning in anxious circles, which liberates your subconscious, diffuse mind to work on the problem in the background. The next category of tools involves changing your context. Sometimes the problem isn't you, it's the room you're in. Your brain forms strong associations with your environment. If you have spent hours feeling stuck and frustrated at your desk, your brain will start to associate your desk with the feeling of being stuck. You need to break that pattern. The simplest tool is to simply work in a different place. Go to a coffee shop, a library, or a park bench. The new sounds, sights, and smells will provide fresh input to your brain. Even just moving from your desk to the kitchen table can be enough to shake things up. You can also change your sensory input. If you're listening to music, turn it off. If you're working in silence, put on a genre of music you don't normally listen to, particularly instrumental music like classical, electronic, or film scores, which can alter your mood without distracting you with lyrics. The third category of tools involves changing your process. If the way you are working is not working, try a different way. If you are typing on a computer, switch to writing by hand in a notebook. The slower pace and physical act of writing can unlock different parts of your brain. If you are writing, try drawing. Try to create a mind map or a simple sketch of your idea. This engages the visual, non-verbal parts of your mind. Another powerful process change tool is to work on a different project for a short set period of time. Set a timer for 20 minutes and pull an idea out of your idea vault. Work on that low-stakes project with a sense of playfulness. This can often loosen up your creative gears so that when you return to your main project, you are no longer stuck. A final process tool is to simply talk about your problem out loud. Phone a friend, your partner, or even just explain the problem to your dog or a rubber duck on your desk. The act of articulating the problem, of translating the fuzzy mess in your head into coherent language, will often reveal the solution to you, even if the person or duck you are talking to says nothing at all. We have faced the dragon. We have stared into its eyes without flinching. We have learned that its roar is a sign of treasure, that its fire is fueled by our own fears, and that we have a rich toolbox of techniques to tame it and walk past it. The goal is not to live a creative life free of fear and blocks. That is impossible. The goal is to build the resilience, the courage, and the toolkit to continue your work even in the presence of fear. The professional creator is not someone who doesn't get scared. The professional is someone who shows up and does the work anyway. This brings us to our final empowering task for this chapter. It is time to assemble your personal blockbuster emergency kit. I want you to look back at the toolbox of techniques we have just discussed. Choose your favorite 5. The 5 that resonate most with you, the ones you feel most likely to actually use. Now take a physical index card or a small piece of paper. Write the names of those 5 techniques on the card. For example, 1. 15-minute walk. 2. Talk to the duck. 3. Shitty first draft. 4. Work at coffee shop. 5. Switch to notebook. Now put this card somewhere you will always see it. Tape it to your computer monitor. Pin it to the wall above your desk. Make it your phone's lock screen. This is your pre-committed action plan. The next time you feel the fog descend, the next time you hear the dragon's roar, you do not have to think. You do not have to rely on your panicked, frozen brain to come up with a solution. You simply look at your card and you do technique number 1. You have a system. You have a plan. You are no longer a victim of the block. You are a prepared and resilient creator, ready and able to face the dragon and claim the treasure that is rightfully yours. Chapter 8. The 20-minute habit. Forging a creative routine. Welcome back, determined creator. You have ventured deep into the territory of your own mind. You have faced down the dragons of fear and perfectionism, armed with a new understanding of your own power. You have learned to select and develop an idea, turning a fragile spark into a steady, growing flame. You possess the tools, the techniques, and the mindset of a productive creative. But let me ask you a question. What is the difference between a tourist who has a wonderful, life-changing vacation and a native who lives in that beautiful place every single day? The tourist has an experience, The native has a life. Many people approach creativity like a tourist. They binge on a book like this one, feel a surge of inspiration, have a frantic, wonderful weekend of creating, and then, slowly, as the pressures of daily life creep back in, they revert to their old ways. The creative vacation ends, and they return home to the same old routines. Our goal in this chapter is to make you a native. It is to move you from having a temporary creative experience to building a permanent creative life. This is the chapter where we forge the chains of habit that will paradoxically set you free. We are going to take all the grand concepts, all the powerful tools and mindsets we have discussed, and distill them into the single most potent force for change known to humankind. A small, consistent, daily routine. We are going to build your 20-minute habit. You may be skeptical. 20 minutes? How can a mere 20 minutes a day possibly compete with the 8-hour marathon sessions of a real creative genius? This is the final myth we must dismantle. The belief that creative progress only happens in huge, dramatic bursts of effort is what keeps most people from ever starting. The secret of every prolific artist, writer, inventor, and entrepreneur is not that they have more time or more inspiration than you do. The secret is that they understand the earth-shattering power of consistency. They know that a small, steady drip of water can carve a canyon through solid rock, while a single violent flood might only wash away the topsoil. This chapter is about teaching you how to become that steady drip of water. We are going to build a habit so small it's impossible to say no to, so simple it's almost effortless to start, and yet so powerful it will fundamentally rewire your brain and reshape your identity over time. Forget the marathon. We are about to begin the daily walk that will carry you to the finish line of any creative goal you can imagine. Before we design the specifics of your new habit, we must first understand the machine we are trying to program. That machine is the habit-forming part of your brain. Deep within your brain, in a region called the basal ganglia, is a powerful and ancient system designed for one purpose: to conserve energy. Thinking is hard work. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that makes decisions and exercises willpower, consumes a massive amount of glucose. It gets tired easily. To prevent you from having to consciously think about every single action you take, from tying your shoes to brushing your teeth to driving your car, your brain loves to create automatic routines. It bundles a sequence of actions into a single automated chunk that can be run without conscious thought. This is a habit. Once a behavior becomes a habit, your prefrontal cortex gets to go on a coffee break. The basal ganglia takes over, and the action happens on autopilot. This is why you can sometimes drive all the way to work and not remember a single part of the journey. Your habit loop was driving the car, freeing up your conscious mind to think about other things. This process is what the writer Charles Duhigg, in his groundbreaking book, The Power of Habit, famously called the habit loop. It consists of 3 simple parts. First, there is the cue. This is the trigger, the signal to your brain that tells it which habit to run. It could be a time of day, 7 a.m., a location, the kitchen, a preceding action, finishing your dinner, or an emotional state, feeling stressed. Second, there is the routine. This is the behavior itself, the action you perform. It can be physical, mental, or emotional. Third, there is the reward. This is the prize you get for completing the routine, the thing that tells your brain, hey, this loop is worth remembering and doing again in the future. The reward is what solidifies the habit and makes it stick. Cue, routine, reward. This simple 3-step neurological process is running your life whether you are aware of it or not. The vast majority of our daily actions are simply habit loops we have built up over years. The good news is that this system is not fixed. You can consciously design and install new habit loops. You can use this ancient energy-saving mechanism for your own creative purposes. The 20-minute habit is not just a nice idea. It is a meticulously designed habit loop that we are going to intentionally install in your brain. Let's start with the first and most critical piece of the loop, the cue. The cue is the starting pistol for your habit. Without a reliable cue, your habit will never become automatic. You will be forever relying on your limited willpower and motivation to remember to do it, which is a recipe for failure. A great cue makes the starting of your habit not a choice, but a reflex. There are several types of cues we can design. The most common is a time-based cue. I will do my creative habit at 8 p.m. every night. This can work, but it has a flaw. Life is messy. 8 p.m. can be interrupted by a phone call, a late dinner, or simple fatigue. A far more powerful technique is what is known as habit stacking, a concept popularized by the author James Clear. The idea is to anchor your new desired habit to an old, already established habit. The completion of the old habit becomes the cue for the new one. The formula is simple. After I current habit, I will new habit. This is incredibly effective because you are piggybacking on the momentum of a habit that is already wired into your brain. You don't need a new alarm or a new reminder. You just need to create the link. Let's look at some examples. After I pour my first cup of coffee in the morning, I will sit down and do my 20-minute creative habit. The coffee is something you already do without thinking. It is a deeply ingrained cue. By linking your creative practice to it, you are making it part of that same automatic ritual. Or after I brush my teeth at night, I will open my journal for my 20-minute habit. Brushing your teeth is the cue. Or after I get home from work and change my clothes, I will do my 20-minute habit. The act of changing clothes is the trigger. I want you to take a moment and think about your own daily routine. What are the anchor points, the things you do every single day without fail? Your morning coffee, your lunch break, your commute home? Find a solid, reliable anchor habit and decide that your new creative practice will come immediately after it. Another powerful cue is location. Your brain is a powerful association machine. As we discussed in our chapter on the creative ecosystem, it links moods and behaviors to specific places. You can use this to your advantage by dedicating a specific location to be the cue for your habit. This is your creative chair or your idea desk. It is the physical space you have set up for your creative work. The rule is simple. The only thing you are allowed to do in this chair or at this desk is your creative habit. You don't check email there. You don't scroll through social media there. You don't pay bills there. When you sit in that chair, it is the cue. The simple physical act of sitting down triggers the creative routine. Over time, this association becomes incredibly strong. The moment you sit down, your brain will start to shift into creative gear automatically, because that is what it has been trained to do in that specific spot. Combining a stacked habit with a location cue is the ultimate recipe for success. After I pour my morning coffee, I will walk over to my idea desk and begin my 20-minute habit. You have now given your brain a clear, unambiguous signal. The trigger is unmistakable. Now that we have a powerful cue, we must design the routine. This is the what of your 20-minute habit. What exactly are you going to do for those 20 minutes? The answer is not be creative. That is too vague. A vague goal will lead to decision fatigue, and you will end up just staring into space. You need a specific, predefined menu of creative practices that you can choose from. Having a menu is crucial. If you force yourself to do the exact same thing every single day, it may eventually become boring and feel like a chore. By having a small menu of 3 to 5 different 20-minute routines, you can choose the one that matches your energy level and mood on any given day. This gives you a sense of autonomy and keeps the practice fresh and engaging. What could be on your menu? The good news is that we have already assembled most of the ingredients throughout this book. Your job is to package them into 20-minute sessions. Here is a sample menu. Routine. Option 1. The idea sprint. This is for days when you feel energetic and want to practice active generation. You set a timer for 20 minutes. You choose a prompt, which could be a problem you're facing or a random topic like reinventing the toaster. You pick one of the generation engines from Chapter 5, like the What If game or Scamper, and you fill a page with as many ideas as you can, quantity over quality. This is a high-energy workout for your idea muscle. Routine option 2, the mindful capture. This is for days when you feel more reflective and less energetic. You will use your 20 minutes to practice the art of observation, as we discussed in our chapter on the idea net. You can sit by a window or go for a short walk. Your only job is to pay attention to your senses and capture what you notice. What do you see that you've never noticed before? What specific sounds do you hear? What snippets of conversation do you overhear? You are not trying to have ideas. You are simply stocking your mental pantry with rich sensory details. You are being a professional noticer. Routine option. 3. The mind map exploration. This is for when you have a specific idea you want to develop. You pull an idea from your idea vault or your recent brainstorming lists. You write it in the center of a page, and for 20 minutes, you explore it using the mind mapping technique from Chapter 6. You explore the why, the who, the what, and the how. You are not trying to write the final project. You are simply taking a small spark and gently fanning it, giving it more substance and structure. Routine option 4. The input dive. This is for days when you feel empty and uninspired. You recognize that you cannot output if you have not had any input. So for your 20 minutes, you will intentionally consume a piece of content that is completely outside your usual bubble, as we discussed in our chapter on your ecosystem. You will read a chapter from a book on a subject you know nothing about. You will watch a short documentary on a strange topic. You will listen to an album from a genre of music you've never explored. Your only job is to be curious and to take 1 or 2 notes on what you found interesting. You are planting new exotic seeds in the garden of your mind. Routine. Option 5. The connection game. This is a playful routine that combines capture and generation. You open your capture notebook to a random page. You put your finger down on a random word or observation you've recorded. Then you turn to another random page and do the same thing. Now you have 2 completely unrelated concepts. Your job for the next 20 minutes is to find a connection between them. How could a rainy Tuesday and the concept of gravity be combined into a story, a product, or a piece of art? This is a direct workout for your brain's diffuse mode, training it to find surprising links between disparate ideas. This is just a sample menu. You can create your own. The key is that when your cue happens, you do not have to decide what to do. You just have to look at your small menu of predefined options and pick one. This eliminates the friction of decision-making and makes it infinitely easier to get started. And getting started is the only thing that matters. Finally, we arrive at the third and most delicious part of the loop, the reward. The reward is the secret ingredient that makes your brain crave the habit. It's the feedback that says, "That routine we just did, it was good. Let's do it again." Without a reward, a habit is just a chore. With a reward, it becomes a pleasure. The reward must be immediate. The long-term reward of your creative habit might be finishing your novel or launching your business, but that is months or even years away. Your brain's ancient habit-forming mechanism doesn't care about long-term goals. It needs an immediate hit of satisfaction. There are 2 types of rewards, intrinsic and extrinsic. The intrinsic reward is the feeling of satisfaction that comes from the activity itself. The pride of filling a page, the small joy of a new connection, the feeling of flow when you are lost in the work. Over time, this intrinsic reward will become the most powerful driver of your habit. But in the beginning, while the habit is still fragile, it can be very helpful to add a small, tangible, extrinsic reward to seal the deal. The reward should be something you genuinely enjoy, and it should happen immediately after you complete your 20 minutes. What could this be? It has to be something small that you can do every day. Maybe after you finish your 20-minute session, you allow yourself to enjoy your favorite cup of tea or a special piece of chocolate. Maybe you allow yourself 5 minutes of guilt-free scrolling on your favorite social media app. Maybe you put a big, satisfying check mark on a calendar, which taps into our love of making progress. The writer Jerry Seinfeld famously used this "don't break the chain" method. He would get a big wall calendar, and for every day that he wrote jokes, he would put a big red X over that day. "After a few days, you'll have a chain," he said. "Just keep at it and the chain will grow longer every day. You'll like seeing that chain, especially when you get a few weeks under your belt. Your only job next is to not break the chain." That growing chain of X's was his reward. Choose a small reward that delights you. The cue happens. You do the routine. You immediately get the reward. Cue, routine, reward. By consciously designing and executing this loop, you are speaking your brain's native language. You are hijacking its ancient machinery for your own creative purposes. Now that we understand the science and the structure, we must confront the practical realities. We must address the excuses and the obstacles that your inner critic, our old friend Stan, will inevitably throw in your way as you try to build this new habit. The first and most common excuse is, "I don't have time." Let's be very clear. This is a lie. It is the most socially acceptable and self-deluding lie we tell ourselves. Everyone has 20 minutes. The issue is not a lack of time. The issue is a lack of priorities. The average person spends multiple hours per day on passive, low-value activities like watching television, scrolling through social media, and browsing the internet. If you truly want to build a creative life, you must be honest with yourself about where your time is going. For one day, track your time. Be ruthless. You will be shocked at how many 20-minute blocks are scattered throughout your day, being consumed by things that do not nourish you, do not grow you, and do not move you closer to your goals. Finding 20 minutes is not a matter of time management. It is a matter of value clarification. You are not finding time. You are making time. You are consciously choosing to reallocate a small portion of your time from a low-value activity to the high-value activity of investing in your own creativity. This is a profound act of self-respect. The second obstacle is the inevitable day when you miss. Life happens. You get sick, you have a family emergency, you are completely exhausted. You miss your 20-minute session. Your inner critic will leap at this opportunity. "See?" it will hiss. "You've failed, you've broken the chain, you're no good at this. You might as well just give up." This is a critical moment. This is where most people's attempts at habit building die. You must be prepared for this moment with a powerful rule. The rule is, never miss twice. Missing one day is an accident. It happens to everyone, it is a data point. Missing 2 days in a row is the beginning of a new negative habit. The single most important thing you can do to salvage a new habit is to get back on track the very next day, no matter what, even if you can only do 5 minutes. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to be resilient. A professional doesn't let one bad day turn into a bad week. They show up the next day. Adopt the never miss twice rule, and you will become anti-fragile. A missed day will no longer be a sign of failure. It will be a signal to redouble your commitment the following day. The third obstacle is the feeling that it has become a chore. In the beginning, the novelty keeps you going, but after a few weeks, the habit can start to feel stale. You might feel bored or uninspired. This is a sign that you need to adjust your routine menu. If you have been doing the idea sprint every day, your brain might be tired of that particular workout. It's time to switch to a gentler routine, like the mindful capture or the input dive. Your 20-minute habit should feel like a sanctuary, a playground, a place of creative nourishment. It should not feel like taking out the trash. Be sensitive to your own energy levels. Give yourself the grace to choose the routine that serves you best on that particular day. The consistency of the time and the cue is what matters. The specific activity can be flexible. The final obstacle is impatience. We live in a world of instant gratification. We want results now. After a few weeks of your 20-minute habit, you might look at your work and think, is this it? I haven't written a novel yet. I haven't launched my business. This isn't working. You must understand that the 20-minute habit is not a short-term hack. It is a long-term strategy. You are not building a product in 20 minutes. You are building an identity. Every time you sit down and complete your 20-minute session, you are casting a vote for a new version of yourself. You are not just doing a creative habit. You are becoming the kind of person who is creative every day. You are becoming a writer. You are becoming an artist. You are becoming an innovator. Each session is like laying a single grain of sand. One grain is nothing. But if you lay a grain of sand every single day, eventually you will have a beach. The work you are doing is cumulative. The power is in the aggregation of marginal gains. Trust the process. The results will come, not as a sudden lightning strike, but as a slow, inevitable sunrise that is the natural consequence of you showing up, day after day. This practice is about more than just generating ideas. It is about changing your relationship with your own mind. The 20-minute habit is a keystone habit. A keystone habit is a single, small habit that creates a ripple effect, sparking a chain reaction of other positive changes in your life. People who start exercising regularly, for example, often start eating better and sleeping better without consciously trying to. In the same way, your daily creative practice will start to change how you see the world. Because you know you have a dedicated time to capture and explore ideas, you will start to notice more ideas throughout your day. You will become more curious, more observant. You will start to see problems not as frustrating obstacles, but as interesting creative prompts. The 20 minutes you dedicate to the practice will start to bleed into the other 23 hours and 40 minutes of your day. You are not just setting aside time for creativity. You are training yourself to be a creative person, full-time. It is time to make this real. It is time to make a commitment. This brings us to your final crucial task for this chapter. You are going to create your creative habit contract. This is a written agreement with yourself. The act of writing it down makes it concrete and dramatically increases your chances of success. Take out a piece of paper or open a new document and write out the following, filling in the blanks. My creative habit contract. My goal is not to be perfect, but to be consistent. My identity is that of a person who creates every day. 1. The cue. After your existing anchor habit, for example, pour my morning coffee, I will go to your dedicated location, for example, my idea desk. 2. The routine. I will perform one activity from my creative menu for 20 minutes. My menu includes: list the 3 to 5 routines you have chosen, for example, idea sprint, mindful capture, mind map exploration. 3. The reward. Immediately after my 20 minutes are complete, I will reward myself with your small delightful reward, for example, a cup of my favorite green tea. 4. The emergency plan. If I miss one day, I will not be discouraged. I live by the rule: never miss twice. I will get back on track the very next day. Signed, your name, date, today's date. Sign it. Put it somewhere you can see it every day. You have now done more than just read about a nice idea. You have created a plan. You have designed a system. You have forged the first link in the beautiful chain that will become your new creative life. You are no longer waiting for inspiration to strike. You are building the lighthouse that will guide it home every single day. You are a native now. Welcome home. Chapter 9. Putting it all to work. Creativity in the real world. Welcome back, creator. You have arrived at a pivotal moment in our shared journey. If the chapters leading up to this point have been our training ground, our dojo, our laboratory, then this chapter is where we step out into the sunlight. It is time to leave the gym and enter the arena. We have spent our time building the muscle, sharpening the tools, and forging the habits. We have done the essential internal work, but creativity that remains locked inside your head or confined to the pages of a private notebook is only half realized. It is like a powerful engine that has been meticulously built but never installed in a car. The ultimate purpose of creativity is not just to have ideas, but to make things happen. It is to solve problems, to build businesses, to create art, to improve lives. It is to have an impact on the real world. The question we will answer in this chapter is a simple but profound one. So what? So what if you have a system for generating ideas? So what if you have a daily creative habit? How does this actually change your life? How do you apply this powerful new toolkit to the messy, complicated, and often frustrating challenges you face every single day? This chapter is our bridge from theory to practice. We will take the universal principles we have learned, the dance of focus and diffusion, the art of capture, the engines of generation, the process of selection, the taming of fear, and the power of habit, and we will apply them to specific, real-world scenarios. We will walk through case studies for different kinds of people with different kinds of goals. We will look at how an aspiring entrepreneur can use these tools to find a viable business idea. We will see how a writer or an artist can use them to break through the blank page and create a compelling piece of work. We will explore how a student can use them to study more effectively and think more critically. And we will discover how anyone can use them to become an everyday problem solver, bringing a new level of innovation and ingenuity to the challenges of their daily life, from navigating a difficult conversation to planning a better vacation. My goal is to show you that the system you have built is not a niche skill for creative types. It is a universal operating system for a better life. It is a set of power tools that can be used to build anything you can imagine. By the end of this chapter, you will no longer see creativity as a separate, compartmentalized part of your life. You will see it for what it truly is, a fundamental, practical, and indispensable tool for navigating the modern world with more success, more confidence, and more joy. Let's begin by applying our toolkit to one of the most common and high-stakes creative challenges, the quest of the entrepreneur. Let's invent a character. We'll call her Sarah. Sarah works in a corporate office job that she finds unfulfilling. She has a deep desire to build something of her own, to be her own boss and to create something of value in the world. She has the dream of being an entrepreneur, but she is stuck at the very first hurdle. She tells herself the classic lie, "I don't have a good business idea." She sees successful businesses everywhere and assumes their founders were struck by a lightning bolt of genius that she is simply not destined to receive. She is waiting for the perfect idea to fall into her lap. How can our system help Sarah? First, Sarah must begin with the foundational practices we established. She will start by cultivating her creative ecosystem and building her idea net. She understands from our earlier chapters that great business ideas do not come from sitting in a dark room and trying to think of a business. They come from a deep and empathetic engagement with the world. So, she starts her input dive habit. She actively diversifies what she consumes. Instead of just reading business news, she starts reading about psychology, design, and technology. She watches documentaries on social trends and listens to podcasts from different industries. She is stocking her mental pantry with a wide variety of ingredients. Simultaneously, she begins the relentless practice of capture. She carries a pocket notebook with her everywhere. She stops filtering her thoughts and starts capturing everything. She becomes a professional noticer of her own life and the lives of those around her. Her notebook starts to fill up not with business ideas, but with something far more valuable: problems. She starts capturing what I call small frustrations. That little annoyance when you try to untangle your headphones, the difficulty of finding a healthy and quick lunch near her office, the observation that all of her friends who are new parents seem to be constantly exhausted and isolated. She captures her own frustrations. "I hate trying to find a reliable plumber. The process is a nightmare." She captures overheard complaints. "I wish there was a way to know if this coffee shop is too crowded before I walk all the way over there." Her notebook is becoming a problem vault. This is a crucial reframe. Most aspiring entrepreneurs are hunting for solutions. The truly successful ones are hunting for good problems. A good problem is the fertile soil from which a great business grows. Now that Sarah has a rich compost pile of captured problems and observations, she can move into active generation. She schedules a few 20-minute idea sprint sessions. She takes one of the problems from her notebook, for example. New parents are lonely and overwhelmed. She then unleashes one of our generation engines on it. She starts with the what-if game. What if there was a subscription box specifically for new parents, but instead of baby stuff, it was filled with things to help them relax and feel human again, like nice coffee, a good book, and a voucher for a food delivery service? What if there was a co-working space that also had a high-quality on-site daycare, so freelance parents could work without being separated from their children? What if there was an app that was like a Tinder for parent friends, helping new parents in the same neighborhood connect with each other for stroller walks and playground visits? Next, she uses the alchemist's secret, the art of forced combination. She takes the problem "new parents are lonely" and combines it with a random concept like masterclass. What would that be? A platform with short, practical video classes for parents on topics they actually need, like how to assemble a crib without fighting with your partner, or 5-minute mindfulness exercises you can do while the baby is napping. She is not judging these ideas. She is simply generating a high quantity of possibilities, following our quantity breeds quality rule. After a few of these sessions, followed by the mandatory cool-down period, Sarah now has a long list of potential business concepts. She is no longer stuck with no ideas. She has the opposite problem. So she moves to the next stage of our process, selection and development. She takes her list and runs each concept through our 3-part filtering system. For each idea, she asks, first, the excitement filter. On a scale of 1 to 10, how genuinely excited am I about this idea? She finds that while the subscription box idea is interesting, the concept of the parent co-working space really lights her up. It gets a 9/10. She can already picture the community, the atmosphere. Second, she applies the impact filter. Who is this for and what value does it create? For the co-working space idea, the who is very clear: freelance or remote working parents of young children in her city. The impact is huge. It solves the problem of isolation, provides a professional environment, and removes the stress of finding separate childcare. It gets a 9/10 for impact. Third, she applies the feasibility filter. How realistic is it for me to take the first meaningful step? Building a physical co-working space is a massive undertaking requiring huge capital. The feasibility score is very low, maybe a 2/10. This is discouraging. But then she remembers the rule: the filter is about the first step. What if the first step wasn't leasing a building? What if the first step was to organize a simple, one-day pop-up co-working event at a local community center that already has a room and a playground? Suddenly the feasibility shoots up to a 7/10. She can do that. The pop-up event idea scores highest across all three filters. It is her chosen idea. She puts the other ideas safely in her idea vault and moves to the development stage. She creates a mind map for the pop-up event. She fleshes out the what services will be offered, the who, how will she reach out to her target audience, and the how, what is her budget, what does she need to book. She creates a low-fidelity prototype, a simple one-page flyer describing the event. She has moved from the vague dream of starting a business to a concrete, actionable plan for a small-scale experiment. She has used our system, step by step, to find and develop a real-world project. This is how the journey begins. Now let's switch gears and apply our system to a different creative challenge. Let's imagine a character named Leo. Leo is an aspiring novelist. He has a great idea for a fantasy story, a world he has been dreaming about for years. He sits down at his computer, opens a blank document, types Chapter 1, and then freezes. The blank page is a terrifying white desert. The scale of the project, the thought of writing 80,000 words, is so overwhelming that he feels paralyzed. His dragon, the fear of not being good enough, is breathing fire down his neck. How can our toolkit help Leo? Leo's first problem is that he is trying to eat the entire elephant in one bite. His goal, write a novel, is too big and too intimidating. He needs to shrink the task down to something manageable. He starts by embracing the 20-minute habit. He signs a contract with himself. His goal is no longer to write a novel. His goal is to show up for 20 minutes every morning after he makes his coffee. This immediately lowers the stakes and makes the process feel achievable. Next, he needs to tackle the blank page. He realizes that trying to write a perfect Chapter 1 from a cold start is the problem. He needs to do the preparatory work. He needs to move from the focused mode of writing prose to the diffuse mode of exploration. He takes out a large piece of paper and starts a mind map for his story, just as we did in Chapter 6. He puts the core concept in the middle. A young librarian discovers that all the books in her library are actually magical portals to other worlds. From there, he branches out. Who is the main character? He gives her a name, a personality, a fear, and a desire. Who is the villain? What are the rules of the magic system? Why is this story important to him? What themes does he want to explore? He spends several of his 20-minute sessions just playing in this mind map. With no pressure to write beautiful sentences, he is building the skeleton of his story. Now that he has a richer understanding of his world, he still feels some resistance to writing prose. So he uses one of our block-busting techniques. He changes the process. Instead of trying to write the story from the beginning, he decides to interview his main character. He opens a document and just starts asking her questions and writing down her answers in her own voice. What was your happiest childhood memory? What are you most afraid of? This playful exercise helps him discover her voice and personality in a low-stakes way. He's feeling more confident, but the blank page of Chapter 1 still looms. So he deploys his ultimate weapon against perfectionism, the shitty first draft. He gives himself the explicit permission for the first version to be terrible. He tells himself, My only goal today is to write 500 words of clunky, awkward, cliché-ridden prose. I am just getting the sand into the sandbox. This liberates him. He starts writing. He doesn't worry about elegant descriptions or witty dialogue. He just tells the story like he was explaining it to a friend. He focuses on getting the sequence of events down. He is making a glorious mess, and in that mess, something magical happens. A character says something unexpected. A new plot twist reveals itself. The story begins to come alive, not because he forced it, but because he gave it the messy, imperfect space it needed to be born. He uses his 20-minute habit every day, not to write a perfect novel, but to add another 500 shitty words to the pile. Before he knows it, he has a full first draft. It's a mess, but it exists. It is a tangible thing he can now shape and polish. He has defeated the dragon of the blank page, not by slaying it, but by inviting it to be messy with him. Let's take a third case study. Meet Maria, a university student facing her final exams. She is feeling overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information she needs to learn. Her current method of studying is passive and ineffective. She rereads her textbooks and highlights her notes, but the information doesn't seem to stick. She is confusing the familiarity of seeing the information with the actual knowledge of understanding it. How can she apply our creative toolkit to become a more effective learner? Maria's first realization is that learning is not a passive act of consumption. It is an active act of creation. You must do something with the information to make it your own. She starts by treating her study sessions not as review time, but as 20-minute creation sprints. She uses the mind mapping technique, but instead of for a new idea, she uses it to deconstruct a chapter from her textbook. She puts the central concept of the chapter in the middle of the page, and then actively reconstructs the key arguments and supporting evidence as branches. This forces her to see the structure of the information and the relationships between the ideas, rather than just a linear list of facts. Next, she uses a technique that is a variation of the alchemist's secret. She takes a concept from one class, say, a psychological bias from her psychology course, and tries to combine it with a historical event from her history course. How might the confirmation bias help explain why a certain general made a disastrous military decision? By forcing these connections between different subjects, she is building a richer, more interconnected web of knowledge in her brain. Information that is connected to other information is far more likely to be remembered and understood. To truly test her understanding, she uses a method inspired by the famous physicist Richard Feynman, often called the Feynman technique. The technique is simple. Take a complex concept and try to explain it in the simplest possible terms, as if you were teaching it to a child. Maria takes a difficult topic from her economics class. She stands in front of a whiteboard and tries to explain it out loud, using simple language and analogies. She quickly discovers the gaps in her own understanding. The places where she gets stuck, where she has to say it's complicated or use jargon, are the exact areas she needs to go back and study more deeply. She is not just passively reviewing, she is actively trying to create an explanation, and this act of creation is one of the most powerful learning tools in existence. Finally, she uses the what-if game to engage with the material on a deeper level. Instead of just memorizing the facts of a historical event, she asks, what if this key figure had made a different decision? What if this technology had been invented 50 years earlier? These questions force her to move beyond simple memorization and engage in critical counterfactual thinking. She is no longer just a student memorizing answers for a test. She is a creative thinker, an intellectual explorer, actively wrestling with the material. She has transformed studying from a passive chore into an active, creative process. We have seen how our system can be applied to the grand challenges of starting a business or writing a novel, and to the pragmatic challenge of studying for an exam. But what about the rest of life? The power of this toolkit is that it can be applied to the small everyday problems that we all face. Let's call this the art of being an everyday innovator. Consider a common problem. Your morning routine is stressful and chaotic. You are always rushing, always feeling behind. The traditional approach is to try and be more disciplined or wake up earlier, which relies on willpower and often fails. The creative approach is to treat your morning routine as a design problem. You can use our tools. First, you capture. For a few days, you just observe and take notes on your current routine. What are the friction points? Where do you waste time? Then you can use the scamper method to brainstorm solutions. Substitute. Can I substitute my complex breakfast for a smoothie I make the night before? Combine. Can I combine packing my lunch with cleaning up after dinner the previous evening? Adapt. Can I adapt my workout to be a shorter, high-intensity routine that takes less time? Modify. Can I minify my wardrobe choices by creating a preset uniform for the week? Put to another use. Can I use the 5 minutes I spend waiting for the coffee to brew to unload the dishwasher? Eliminate. Can I eliminate checking my email and social media first thing in the morning, which always sends me down a rabbit hole? Reverse. Can I reverse the order of my routine? Maybe getting dressed before I go downstairs is more efficient. By systematically applying this creative framework to a mundane daily problem, you move from being a victim of your routine to being its intentional designer. Or consider another common challenge. A difficult conversation you need to have with a friend or a colleague. The typical approach is to either avoid it or to go in with a single rigid idea of what you want to say. The creative approach is to use our tools to prepare. You can use a mind map to explore the situation from multiple perspectives. One branch could be my perspective and feelings. Another could be, what might their perspective and feelings be? A third branch could be, what are the key facts of the situation without emotion? And a final branch could be, what are 3 possible ideal outcomes for this conversation? This process helps you move beyond your own reactive emotional state and approach the conversation with more empathy, clarity, and flexibility. You are no longer just reacting. You are creatively designing a better interaction. The applications are endless. You can use these techniques to plan a more interesting vacation, to design a better personal budget, to come up with a more engaging way to teach your children something new, or to find a more efficient way to organize your garage. The mindset is the key. It is the shift from seeing your life as a series of fixed circumstances that you must endure, to seeing it as a series of interesting design problems that you have the power to solve. It is about bringing a spirit of curiosity, playfulness, and intentionality to every corner of your existence. This is the ultimate promise of the creative toolkit you have been building. It is not just about having more ideas. It is about having more agency. It is about reclaiming your power to shape your world. You have learned that creativity is not a magical gift, but a practical, learnable skill. You have proven to yourself, through the daily practice of your 20-minute habit, that you are a creative person. Now your final challenge is to take that identity and that toolkit and apply it with courage and generosity to the world around you. Your final task for this chapter is to choose your first real-world project. I want you to look at your life right now with your new creative eyes. Identify one area, big or small, that feels stuck, frustrating, or full of untapped potential. It could be a professional goal, a personal project, or a nagging daily problem. Choose one. Now I want you to commit to applying our system to that single problem. Don't just think about it, do it. Create a new concept dossier for this real-world challenge. Start by capturing observations about it. Do an idea sprint to generate potential solutions. Use the 3-filter system to choose a promising path forward. Create a mind map to flesh out your plan. Define the very first tiny actionable step you can take. By doing this, you are closing the loop. You are taking everything you have learned in our time together and channeling it into a meaningful real-world outcome. You are moving from learning to doing. You are not just an idea factory anymore. You are a world builder, and you are just getting started. Chapter 10. You are an idea factory, your creative future. We have arrived at the end of our journey together, but it is the beginning of yours. I want you to take a moment and look back at the path we have traveled. Think about where you were when you first decided to listen to these words. You may have been staring at a blank page, feeling frustrated, stuck, and perhaps even a little hopeless. You may have been carrying around the heavy, invisible weight of the belief that creativity was for other people, for the special ones, the geniuses, the chosen few. You saw a wall between you and the creative life you wanted, and you did not know how to climb it. Look at where you are now. That wall has been dismantled, brick by brick. You have learned that the myths that formed that wall were made of smoke. You have discovered that you were born with a powerful creative engine inside of you, a beautiful and complex idea factory in your own mind. We took a tour of that factory, learning about its two great departments, the focused taskmaster and the diffuse daydreamer. You learned to stop overworking one and neglecting the other, and instead to create a graceful dance between them. You became a master gardener of your own ecosystem, learning to cultivate your physical, digital, and intellectual environments to be fertile ground for new ideas. You forged your idea net, the sacred habit of capture that ensures no spark of insight will ever be lost again. You learned to fire up the great engines of active generation, becoming a farmer who can create a harvest of ideas on demand, rather than a hunter who just waits for game to appear. You became a jeweler, learning to sort through your raw ideas to see their hidden potential and to choose the one with the most promise. You learned to tame the dragons of fear and perfectionism that guard the caves of creation, understanding that their roar is not a warning to turn back, but a compass pointing you toward the treasure. You forged the unbreakable chain of a daily habit, a small, consistent practice that is slowly and surely rewiring your brain and reshaping your identity. And you have learned to take this entire powerful toolkit and apply it to the real, tangible challenges of your life, to become not just a thinker but a doer. You have done the work, you have the system, you have the tools, you have the mindset. The most important thing you can take away from our time together is this: the creative process is not a mysterious linear path to a single destination. It is not a test that you pass or fail. It is a cycle. It is a continuous, beautiful, and sometimes messy loop that you will live inside for the rest of your life. It is the great, virtuous cycle of a creative life. Let's trace its path one last time, for it is the map you will now follow on your own. It begins with input. You live in the world with your eyes and your heart wide open. You become a collector of experiences, a curator of curiosities. You feed your mind a diverse and interesting diet, fighting against the algorithms that want to place you in an echo chamber. You read outside your field. You talk to people who are different from you. You pay attention, this leads to capture. You honor every spark. You live by the rule, capture now, judge later. Your notebook or your app is your constant companion, your trusted second brain. It becomes a rich compost pile of observations, questions, quotes, fragments, and fledgling ideas. From there, you move to brainstorming. You no longer wait to be inspired. You schedule time to actively generate ideas. You use your powerful engines, the what-if game, the alchemist's secret, the scamper method, to create a high quantity of raw material. You embrace the bad ideas, knowing they are the necessary stepping stones to the good ones. Next comes the crucial stage of selection and refinement. You let your ideas cool down, gaining perspective. You run them through the filters of your heart, your head, and your hands, assessing their excitement, their impact, and their feasibility. You choose one path, placing the others safely in your idea vault for another day. You develop your chosen idea with a mind map, giving it structure and depth. This leads you to action. You face the dragon. You acknowledge your fear and your perfectionism, but you do not let them stop you. You embrace the shitty first draft. You focus on the smallest possible step. You build, you write, you create. You make something that did not exist before. You bring your idea into the world. And finally, you arrive at the most overlooked but most essential part of the cycle: rest. You step away from the project. You recharge your creative batteries. You allow your focused mind to recover. And in that state of rest, you naturally return to the first stage of the cycle. You are once again open to new input, new observations, new experiences, and the great wheel begins to turn again. Input, capture, brainstorm, refine, act, rest. This is your life now. It is the rhythm of the creator. I want you to make one final crucial reframe in your mind. Up until this point, you may have thought of yourself as someone who is looking for an idea. You have been a seeker. From this day forward, I want you to change that. You are no longer a seeker. You are the source. You are not a person who is looking for an idea. You are an idea factory. You own the machinery. You know how to operate it. Your job is no longer to wait for inspiration to visit you. Your job is to get up every morning, walk into your factory and turn on the machines. Some days the factory will produce polished, beautiful, brilliant products. Other days it will sputter and hiss and produce a lot of smoke and strange noises. It doesn't matter. Your job is simply to open the doors, turn on the lights and do the work. The professional creator trusts the process, even on the days they don't trust themselves. The world you live in is desperately in need of your creativity. It is overflowing with interesting problems to be solved, with inefficiencies that can be streamlined, with a hunger for new stories that can connect us, with a need for more beauty, more joy, and more understanding. You now possess the key that can unlock your unique contribution to this world. That key is not a magical gift you were born with. It is a set of tools you have learned to use. It is a muscle you have strengthened. It is a habit you have forged. Do not let it go to waste. Do not let the dust settle on your new machinery. The journey ahead of you will not always be easy. The dragon will roar again. The blank page will sometimes feel vast and empty. You will have moments of doubt, but you are different now. You are prepared. You have a map. You have a compass. You know that the block is not a wall but a doorway. You know that fear is not a stop sign, but a signpost pointing toward the work that matters. You know that the secret is not to find a massive, uninterrupted block of time to be a genius, but to find 20 minutes a day to be a consistent, dedicated craftsperson. Your best ideas are still ahead of you. The most important project you will ever work on is still just a fledgling spark in your mind. The person you are capable of becoming is waiting for you to get to work. Start today, start small, but start. Open your factory. Turn on the lights. The world is waiting to see what you will build. Thank you for listening. I hope this book has armed you with the tools and the confidence to bring your amazing ideas to life. This was a production of my channel, Audio Waves, where I explore more ideas like this every other day. If you enjoyed this journey, please subscribe for more content that feeds your mind. Now go create something. Of course,